Round two. I swear we've been talking for like the last 10 minutes, thinking that we were live, but apparently we were not. But what's up, everybody? Another Friday night happy hour, late night happy hour edition of Wakanda Whiskey and Blurred Them, where we chop it up about our favorite characters, Black Panther, various comics, what we're watching on the telly, in movies, and just general boredom, whatever comes through our whiskey addled minds. As usual, I'm your host, Paul. With me, as usual, is my partner, Marc.
What's going on?
Found it
Happy
out, get
Friday
that
to
right.
everyone.
And wow, that was weird. I swore we were live all this time.
Nope, apparently we
That's
weren't.
so strange. What's up to the chat? Everyone who's in the chat. Gordon Mahan, what's up, brother? How you doing? James Tomlinson, Bot Boy Versus, good evening.
Hey, James, are you related to Ladanian?
Sure. Pericles Dragon Balls. Man, he's on time. Well, we're late, so I guess you're really on time. The Four Deadly Venoms. Salute, King. We on that CPT. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened to us tonight, brother. I mean, that's on us. And
Jamie
Jamie
Odell.
Odell. Yo to you too. All right. So we usually start with liquor.
You kind of froze. I don't know if you can
Am I
hear.
frozen?
Yeah, you were. You were for
I
a
was
second.
frozen.
Yes, you were.
So maybe the connections on my end sucks. Well, we'll
Mm.
try and make it work regardless, everyone. Marc, you had something special to sip on this week, didn't you?
Yeah, so I went into one of my local liquor stores. This particular place isn't necessarily that big, but their whiskey selection is top notch. And I want to say it almost rivals Total Wine. I don't know if wherever you guys are watching, guys and gals are watching from, if you have Total Wine, but Total Wine to me is like the Walmart of liquor stores because it is just that large. Their selection is just that vast. So if you can find one in your area, highly recommend and suggest that you go in. You can have they have damn near everything, but this particular liquor store, which is about maybe 10 minutes from where I live, is a smaller location. But again, their whiskey selection, Scotch, Irish whiskey, bourbon, rye, it's just phenomenal. And so when I was in there the other day, I was asking for black owned whiskeys, of course. And of course, they mentioned Uncle Nearest, Bro Brothers, Greenwood whiskeys, all of which we've sampled, or at least I have on this platform. But one that I had never heard of was called St. Cloud, right? And one of the first things I noticed about this one is, unlike a lot of bourbons, the stopper is art. It is decorative. And it reminds me of the stoppers from Blanton, which I believe are somewhat of collector's items because they have horses in different modes of running, right? So this is the stopper for the St. Cloud. And I will say that it's got some heft to it.
That looks
Typically,
like the emblem that's on the front of those cars.
yes, like not
The
Lamborghini,
Phantom, right?
something like that. Yes, that is very reminiscent of that. And that was one of the first things that I noticed. And then when I went to the website to, try to learn about the brand, one of the things that was somewhat bothersome to me is that, okay, we know people of different backgrounds or whatever drink whiskey. That's not a problem. But this is a black owned brand. And when I go to the website, or when you go to the website for St. Cloud bourbon, all you see are white folks. And that was somewhat disconcerting to me. We know that black folks buy whiskey. We know that everybody buys whiskey. So why this brother has nothing but white folks on his page, that I kind of took issue with that. But it's his company, it's his brand. He does with it as he pleases. I opened it up a little bit earlier to just let it breathe a little bit, and I just, gently placed the stopper in it. The first thing that I noticed, because this is my first time smelling it, it smells of honey. It seems like it has a somewhat fruity smell to it. And I have not tasted it, of course. I'm going to give it my first pour and see what we've got here. Unfortunately, I didn't bring any water in here with me. So we'll just have to make do. I have a Monster Energy drink over there, so we'll see. Maybe add a splash of that. This is not bad. I wish I had some water to open it up a little bit, but this is not bad. I taste caramel. You definitely taste some it's like brown sugar a little bit. Okay, you know what? On that second sip, this is good. I'm recommending St. Cloud. I know the brother needs to go ahead and add some people of color to his website, but I'm doing that. But what I'm gonna do, I don't have any I did put an ice cube. As I've mentioned before, I've got different forms of whiskey bullets. So today I'm gonna go with the metal whiskey cubes, the whiskey bullets, because I'm looking at them. But as I think I mentioned before, for Christmas, I got some whiskey bullets. I got some whiskey stones of various types of the silver ones that I just put in. Then I got these whiskey stones. And the purpose of the whiskey stones, whiskey bullets, is to keep your drink cool without watering it down because obviously
What?
it'll melt. So I'm gonna go ahead and top this off and get in. Real quick. Remember that whiskey that you tried first a few months ago that was like a brown I want to say maybe it was Scotty Pippins or what was it called?
Scottie Pippen had one called Digits.
No, okay, not that one. The was it Jamie Foxx? It's like brown something.
Yeah,
Begin
Jamie Foxx had one called BSB, Brown
That's it.
Sugar.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. So I made an old fashioned with that earlier tonight. That was not some bad drinking. Um, it tastes like very sweet Fireball is what it tasted like, and making it old fashioned out of it is pretty damn tasty. So you seem like you're distracted over there. What do you got going on?
I am cleaning my glass. I'm not opposed to drinking out of a dirty glass if it's my own glass, and it was only whiskey that was in it. In this case, I did not want to have one that filthy.
This is smooth.
So I have.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I apologize profusely. This is actually really smooth. Now that I done put the whiskey stones in it, this is this is pretty damn good. So yeah, that gets two thumbs up right here. St. Cloud.
I have um, Glenlivet 14. Now, this one is finished in a cognac cast, and it says it's supposed to be smooth citrus, rich honey, subtle licorice spice unravel across your palate. A portion of the whiskey is finished in cognac cast, delivering a rich and creamy flavor. Sweet and fruity aroma is what it says. Confirmed. Palate, mouth coating whiskey full of ripe poached pears, mandarins and syrup, and chocolate coated raisins with a sweet and delicious finish. Opened it a couple minutes ago. Let it air out a bit.
Glenlivets are typically pretty good. I haven't had Glenlivet in quite some time. For those who don't know, Glenlivet is a Scotch, and something that I've learned since I've been doing this now about 7 years is
Ooh,
that all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. And whiskey is defined by the ingredients or the grains that go into it. So that's something
this,
to
sir,
think about.
is all things advertised.
Yep.
You
Glenlivet
can
is good.
taste you can taste the chocolate covered raisins. I noticed that initially, but moreover, it's smooth,
Yeah.
like smooth. There's no burn. There's zero burn.
Okay.
This is smooth. So having 14 years.
I like when it comes to scotch, I try to find scotch that has been aged in sherry casks because and I'm sure I've mentioned this here before because it adds sweetness to the mix. One of the ones that I've had before is Glenmorangie La Santa, which is very good. Speaking of Total Wine earlier, there's a brand that's unique to that store, which is called Grangestone, Grangestone. If you can find that and find the one that's aged in a sherry cask, the bottle is less than $40. And I've mentioned this before. When Paul was up here in 2018 to come watch Black Panther, we went to one of my cigar bars that I used to go to, and we had a whiskey tasting. Everybody brought a bottle of whiskey. Paul had about a bottle of Balvenie. Other people bought different things, and there's about 8 or 9 of us, if I remember correctly. And so, everybody was tasting everything or whatever. And that 30, 40 bottle of Grainstone that I bought won the tasting that day. So if you have the opportunity to get to Total Wine, try that one out as well.
Those men were all heathens and did not have a cultured palate to appreciate my Balvenie
Right.
cask.
Mm-hmm. What's going on, Chad?
All right. So we've done our whiskey portion. The next portion we're going to go into is our Wakanda portion. And of course, I am not paying attention, so I did not cue up our intro. But give me a sec and I will do so. So, Wakanda time.
Keep on back! Keep on back! Keep on back! Keep on back!
Okay. So Mark and I have, for the last few months, been doing a retrospective of the Christopher Priest run, Volume 3 of Black Panther. We're up to issues 9 and 10. For a quick recap of where we are, we had the introduction to T'Challa into New York, Everett Ross, his State Department liaison, trying to rein him in. T'Challa has had a lot of intrigue to this point where, T'Challa has a lot of history where every time he goes abroad and goes to do his avenging, Wakandans become bitter that they're at their absent king, who keeps leaving regents behind to take care of his affairs while he does the fun stuff of being an Avenger.
Or the
They,
Four
they feel
Musketeers.
some kind of way about that. And every time he leaves the country, his enemies gather to try to usurp his throne, steal power, or a combination thereof. So this was an interesting thing where his arch nemesis, his Joker to his Batman, Achebe, has usurped the throne from him, and has done so by the aid of his stepmother Ramonda, with which he is sharing power. They're co-sharing power. So in essence, Wakanda is right now being run by two outsiders, because Ramonda is actually not originally Wakandan. She's originally from
South
South.
Africa. Right. So basically, the Angela Bassett character, that's who Paul is talking about. She is King T'Chaka's second wife. She was not T'Challa's birth mother. And one of the things about this particular book, and I know we're going to get there, but I've not read these books since they first came out, so it's good to go back and dig in the crates and read this stuff again. First thing, when it comes to this particular issue number 9, the artist in question, named Mike Manley, I believe is different than the artist in issues 1 through 8. What was it? Texeira?
Marc Texeira.
Marc Texeira. Um, I like Marc's art. This art is fine. Obviously, as I always say, it's better than anything that I can do. But I'm a creature of habit, and because I was comfortable with and used to Marc's art, having this change, I'm not necessarily a fan of. There's nothing wrong with it, of course, but it's just different than what we've been reading for 8 particular issues.
You just don't like change.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. Um, one of the pages, 4 pages in, so you have the Dora fighting some bad guys right here, right? So we're talking about 4 pages in. And I just don't like the way that they're drawn. And one of the things that I found interesting, without necessarily going to the story yet, is that they were using guns. I'm accustomed nowadays when it comes to the Dora using spears or hand to hand. So that was something that was interesting in this issue is that they were using guns. Now, the bullets that they were using were non-lethal. There was some type of gel bullets, and I think they mentioned in here that these are the type of bullets that Punisher uses sometimes, and that's fine. But I'm just not accustomed to the door using firearms, so to speak. But yeah.
What was also interesting in this is you got to see something I had never realized. Because understand, Mark and I are rereading these books after 30 years. We really, literally have not read these books in quite some time.
Yep.
And it's really cool because you see things that you forgot about. And then you also get to see them in a new context of now having 30 years of history thereafter. This was a nice little Easter egg type thing that I had not seen, that I had not realized before. T'Challa is like, hey, let's go in our jet. And he calls it Okoye transfer to the Talon Fighter. The Talon Fighter. That's the same name of the vehicle that was used in the Black Panther movie.
Mm.
The ship that they were flying around in was called the Talon. I did not realize that they actually got that directly from the Priest run. I completely forgot that because I hadn't read this literally in 30 years. So I thought,
this ship looks like to me reminds me of. Do you remember the Blue Falcon and Dynamite?
yes, yes.
Tell me that this doesn't look like Blue Falcon ship. Blue Falcon ship was a convertible. But matter of fact, you keep talking. I'm gonna pull it up here in a second. For those of you who don't know, back in the good old days of Saturday morning cartoons, Blue Falcon and Dynamite was basically like Batman and Robin, except Robin was a anthropomorphic dog. So yeah, good times.
So we mentioned before that what's going on right now is Ramonda and Achebe are seemingly working in cahoots to usurp the throne from T'Challa. Ramonda's motivations seem a little unclear to me. I get the feeling she's only working with Achebe to keep, to have sort of the keep your enemies close and your friends close and your enemies closer type of scenario. Where look, she knows Achebe is going to try and steal the throne. At least if she's sharing the throne, she can keep tabs on him, give updates to T'Challa, and try to mitigate the damage that Achebe is doing. At least that's what because I don't remember the story. I honestly don't remember what happens next, which is kind of cool because it's like I'm reading it all for the first time again.
Yep. Now Paul has a completely different take than I do on this situation, because from a logical standpoint, if Ramonda was on the side of T'Challa, she could just put a bullet in Achebe's head and be done with it. But she's not. In here, you will say in the first panel, it says, I brought you along for this ride because you're a good frontman. To me, the way I'm interpreting this, and I think the way that any logical person would interpret this, is that she is the one who's driving the ship. She's the one who's trying to keep T'Challa away so that she can be the one who's in charge making the decisions. This does not appear to be someone who is surreptitiously working with the enemy, because there's no reason for her to. All she has to do, as I said, is put a spear in his gut, a bullet in his brain, and the threat is over. But that's not what she's doing. Again, the very first panel, Ramonda, brought you along to be the face man, right? She's clearly the big bad in this series. And, I didn't remember this. And so it's interesting going back now, reading this and saying, oh my God, Angela Bassett is evil. You know what I'm saying? She's the bad guy. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty interesting. You mentioned you brought up some of the chats. Let's just hold off so I can read them too, after we get done talking about it. But this was really, really good. And especially when you go to the very next issue and you see what happens.
Hold on, we have to go to the next issue. We still got to
no. I was saying some other stuff happens that I completely and totally forgot about, right? But going back to this issue, if you remember in issues, 5 through 7 or whatever, 5 through 8, T'Challa had shown up in New York. Um, I don't remember at this point what he was doing, but there was a state dinner in New York, and a whole bunch of black folks from Harlem and all over New York showed up, and there was almost a riot. Then T'Challa sent everybody away. Thor called down a storm. You know, black folks don't like to get their hair wet, so everybody went away. There was no riot, which is almost was. So now T'Challa is doing his using his investigative skills to try to figure out what happened. Who was it that caused his throne to be usurped? Because understand, the only reason why he's out of the country at this point is because a young lady who was associated with the foundation of his was murdered. And so, in order to try to bring that murderer to justice and find out what exactly went on, he leaves the safety of Wakanda, comes to New York. That's when Achebe, at the direction of Ramonda, apparently took over his throne. And he's out there in the street pounding the pavement, trying to figure out, who did what to whom. And that's why the door are fighting these guys, because they figured out who it was. One of the things that I found interesting is one of the front people is a Russian guy, probably a Russian oligarch. T'Challa is talking to him in his own language. Whenever you see, obviously we all see English, right? But whenever it is a different language, there are brackets at the beginning and end of the paragraph or the word, which indicates and shows us, the reader, that this person is not speaking English. In this one book, we see T'Challa speaking 3 different languages.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's speaking American, aka English. He's also talking in his native Wakandan language, but then he's talking to a Russian dude, clearly in that dude's language, which just goes to show how intelligent T'Challa is. He's at least trilingual. And then if you couple this with what we saw on the screen in the MCU, where he was understanding Korean, that's 4 separate languages at least that we know that this guy can speak and understand.
Yeah, the interesting thing that I'd forgotten, shout out to Chillmonger. He says, "I love when I unremember comic stories," because that's literally what's going on here. This is a mystery, right? But there's also a lot of espionage. One of the things that they said about the Black Panther movie, the first one, was that they were trying to make it an international espionage type of vibe. And I hadn't really thought about their motivations in doing that until I reread these issues. That's literally what Priest was putting together here. Particularly, it all came together in this particular issue because T'Challa finally is putting all the strings together and tying them together. And he's got an American company called System Dynamics, which is run by a government spook, which does all this technology that they kind of farm out to the highest biller. Think of him as Oliver North. Then there's this Russian oligarch.
Hold on. People
who's
don't know
kind
who
of
Oliver
also
North
playing kind of a
People don't know
middleman
who
type
Oliver North
thing.
is. People don't know who Oliver
Huh?
North is. You got to
I beg your
understand that we have a lot of younger people watching. When I say younger, I mean 40 or younger. They're not going to know who Oliver North is. So you might want to give a little brief.
So he is a government agent who is doing business deals to quote unquote proliferate America's interest on the low. That's kind of what this guy does through this company, $158 billion tech company, and they build tech that's used in various weapons, and they put them out to America's allies or whatever their interests are. So that company, the Russian mafia, various other U.S. government interests, T'Challa's like, all these guys are ganging up, and they're behind the scenes working with Achebe. And then he's like, Achebe's an idiot. He's a buffoon. He's crazy. He couldn't have done all this by himself. So he's trying to find out who is the big bad. And the way he got clues to everything that's going on is because Achebe keeps attacking him and spilling the beans and leaving clues all around that T'Challa's picking up all the clues.
Inadvertently. And
inadvertently.
that's one of the things that Ramonda says when she's talking to Achebe. It was like, look, your Achebe is like the Joker is with Batman. He's obsessed. Achebe is obsessed with T'Challa. And that's one of the things that Ramonda says. I don't know if you can see that screen or whatever, that conversation between them. She was like, look, your obsession with my son is effing things up. So you basically need to chill out. And, there are a lot of breadcrumbs that were dropped that T'Challa was able to pick up. One of the things that I found interesting, it just goes to show his level of detail and paying attention to his surroundings. So if you've ever watched any type of mobster movie or anything of that nature or spy movie, you know always that the governmental agents will get some type of van, be it like a plumber's van, some type of work van, and they will surreptitiously spy on their target. They'll have all this type of equipment in there. Well, T'Challa in this issue saw that there was an ice cream truck that always showed up. Now, the ice cream truck, there are hundreds of thousands of ice cream trucks out there. But T'Challa noticed that even though the license plate of these ice cream trucks were different, it always leaked us oil or something from a specific location, which indicated to him that this was the same vehicle despite the change in license plates. So he was able to ascertain that, okay, you know what? These are my target right here because of this. No ice cream truck is going to have this same thing, but with different license plates. And so he was able to tie the license plate and the ice cream truck to the Russians. And there's a scene where he throws an ice cream truck, his ship, obviously, throws an ice cream truck through the window, like the penthouse window of a building where this particular Russian oligarch was staying. And it was just very, very cool.
Right. And then the next sort of interesting part of this story is as he's pulling things together, he's realizing more and more that the US government is behind a lot of all of this. And in essence, factions of the US government are taking action to usurp his throne because they're working with Achebe, who literally usurped his throne. So the government's going after Wakanda, which is an act of war. Now this is what makes this interesting. He goes to Steve Rogers, throws Steve Rogers this tech. And understand the last couple of issues ago, T'Challa made the big revelation to the Avengers. I joined you guys because I wanted to spy on you and check you out and see if you're, bad guys. They're still kind of in their feelings about this. They're still literally hurt. And Steve Rogers is the one who's most hurt by this because Steve Rogers is the one who
Recommended him for
had
membership.
T'Challa join the Avengers. He's the one that sponsored T'Challa to replace him. Him, when he took a sabbatical from the Avengers, he says, "You can replace my spot on the Avengers with T'Challa. He's the next guy up. He is the version of me that's going to take the spot on the Avengers." That's how much respect he had for T'Challa, and for him too. He feels very betrayed. But on the other hand, T'Challa's like, "Well, look, I'm just letting you know that I'm investigating your government because you guys are trying to steal my throne, and I ain't cool with that." And he's like, "Oh, I don't appreciate you, throwing these accusations at my country, T'Challa." He's like, "Look, I don't care what you appreciate. I got the evidence. I'm gathering the evidence to prove this." He goes, "All right, well, I'll come with you." "No, you can't come with me, Mr. Red, White, and Blue uniform guy, because you're an American agent. You're just going to screw up your own career. And there's limitations as to what you can and cannot do because you're wearing that uniform. So I'm going to go ahead and do my thing. And when I got my evidence together, then I'll bring it to you. Then you can decide whether or not you want to ride or die with me." So that's kind of the exchange that they have. But when he hooks up later on with the Avengers,
That's in the
you
next
can
issue, right?
see,
Or in this
huh?
issue. Was that no? Yeah, that was in this issue. That was in
In the
this
same issue, yeah. When he hooks up later with the Avengers, they still got all this animus for him. You know, Panther, the Avengers are your teammates. We're due some type of explanation. And Scarlet Witch is like, I think what he's saying is we should trust him. This is the part I like. This is the part that I thought was really defining.
This
And
is
this is the
key.
part that's completely
This is
different than what we get in the last few runs of Black Panther. Your trust is irrelevant to me. I am not asking you for anything. Factions of your government have committed an act of war against my throne. I cannot
He's
prove
pointing
it.
at Tony Stark, who's clearly an American. Wanda,
Right.
the Scarlet Witch, is not an American, but he's
I
pointing at Tony Stark. Yep.
He says, I cannot prove it, so I must not ask for your help. Your charter represents a contumacious conflict of interest. And my friends, I promise you, things will get much worse before they get better.
Okay, hold on a second.
To
Hold on.
live,
Go back to that
hold on,
panel.
let
Go
me
back to that
finish. Let
panel.
me finish.
Go
To
ahead.
live, to die, to rule again, the Panther must walk alone.
Okay, go back up. Go back up. One of the things that I like about comic books, especially reading them as a child, a lot of time, I would say that reading comic books as a kid helped my intellect because there were vocabulary in comic books that you wouldn't necessarily expect. I literally today had to look up the word contumacious, contumacious,
Contumacious.
contumacious. I give you I bet you $1 that most of you had no idea what that word was, and nobody ever uses that in regular circles, right? Maybe if you go to Harvard and Yale and you're at a cocktail party, somebody may use it, but us regular folks, nobody's using that word. Basically, it means stubborn. That's the gist of what that word means. A normal person would say stubborn, but because T'Challa is so highly educated, he uses this big ass SAT word that made me look it up. I have a pretty good vocabulary, but I had to look that up. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about this art form because it makes you think outside of just the entertainment value. It also kind of educates on a certain level. But what Paul was saying that this is the end of the book where he's meeting with the Avengers. But going back, what you have to remember is in the previous 2, 3 issues, the love of T'Challa's life before Storm was Monica Lynn, the jazz singer. Monica had been kidnapped and fitted with this exoskeleton where she was basically shooting out into the crowd. And so the NYPD and a bunch of, alphabet soup of American government was sitting up here questioning her in the New York precinct. She answers their questions, which you should never do. Let me take a pause. You guys should never, ever, ever talk to the police unless you call them for their assistance. If the cop wants to talk to you about anything, if they ask you the time of day, you say that you need to consult with your lawyer first. You never, ever talk to the police. That aside, Monica is talking to the cops by herself, no lawyer assigned.
Message.
Clearly, she's innocent, but cops will switch and turn things around against your detriment. Never talk to the cops. She does. She's released. As she's walking down the street, she runs into White Wolf, right? White Wolf, hold on the comments so I can pay attention to them too. The White Wolf shows up. And one of the things that I appreciate about the White
That's the
Wolf,
next comic. You've moved on to the next issue.
no, not yet, but he appears in this issue as well. And so you pull up the pictures. The White Wolf shows up, and Monica Lynn is talking to him right here, right? And then Torque, one of the police sergeants, says, "Yo, there are a bunch of white dudes around the corner looking for you." That's the next issue, yeah. But in this issue, you have the White Wolf. You have the White Wolf who appears, who's trying to get Monica Lynn to take her basically to safety, right?
Let's
And
just why don't we just move to the next issue because it
yeah,
goes into much more detail as to what you're talking
right.
about.
So in the MCU, the White Wolf is Bucky, but he ain't the real White Wolf. The White Wolf is basically kind of like Tarzan in that he was in a plane that crashed on Wakandan soil. His parents were killed. He was an infant taken in by some kindly villagers. Then the king of Wakanda, T'Chaka, took him in as his own son. He's about 10 to 12 years actually older than T'Challa. So we get a little
Just
backstory
so everyone
about that.
understands, we've moved on to issue number 10, volume 3 of the Priest run, in which this, for all intents and purposes, was the origin
Hmm.
of White Wolf. This is the origin of White Wolf in this issue, and a little bit of a backstory, flashbacks on Ramonda as well, and the bond that the two of them share as outsiders in Wakanda. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning of the book. So Achebe is just batshit crazy. There is no other way to say it. He's a nut. So he has this doll that he's talking to and talking through. What's the character's name in Batman who had the doll? Do you remember that?
Puppet Master?
No,
No,
no, no, no, no, no.
I know you're talking about the guy who has
Right.
the doll.
If you guys in the chat can think of that character's name from Batman the Animated Series, where it was kind of like a bookish dude had a puppet or a hand doll that was kind of like a 1930s gangster. That's kind of like what Chevy has going on now. So in the book, yeah, right, he's crazy. So he's talking to himself.
Ventriloquist and Scarface. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Thank
Jeffrey
you,
Thorne for the win.
Thank you. That's what we have going on right here, right? But the very next scene is T'Challa shows up at this dude's house, right? This guy is one of the people who was questioning Monica Lynn when she was at the police station talking to the cops without benefit of a lawyer, which you should never
He's an
ever.
NSA spook.
Correct. The NSA is the National Security Administration here in America. Basically, they focus on communications. There's a great book by a gentleman by the name of James Banford called NSA Body of Secrets. If you like this type of stuff, I highly recommend Body of Secrets by James Banford. But that's what this guy is. He's a spook. He's a spy. And
But his
so
job is to actually run. This is the guy who I was referring to as kind of the Oliver North. He's the one who's running this company called System Dynamics, multi-billion-dollar company that makes tech, and they use it for various nefarious government interest.
I
Whether
thought it
it
was
be
that
good
other
guys or
dude.
bad guys.
I thought it was that other dude who he threw the van through the window. I thought he's the guy who ran that company.
I thought that was the Russian mafia guy.
Okay, hold on a second. So basically, I'm looking at no, right. So the other dude, his name is Jack. Let's see. Dynamics covers a spook. His name is Jack something, and he lived in a penthouse. He's the guy who ran Spectrum Dynamic, not this dude. See, this is the
Well,
guy who ran.
This guy's the middleman for the government.
Correct. Right, right. So the Jack dude runs that company. This dude is a low-level government liaison, so to speak, to shuttle stuff from here to there. And T'Challa shows up in his car and is trying to get him to flip. And the guy's like, "Look, no matter what you do to me, I'm not gonna flip. I'm not built like that." So, yeah. And when he was being
What was
interviewed,
interesting is this guy, to his credit, he knows who T'Challa is. He knows he's superpower and whatever, badass dude, and he keeps his cool. T'Challa's sitting in the back of his car. He knows T'Challa could kill him any second if he wanted to, because when you think about it, understand this is why I was bringing up the significance of that last interchange with T'Challa and the Avengers. We're not talking about superhero stuff at this point, right? We're talking about you're trying to take over my country. The sovereignty of my country is at stake. He's in his king shit right now. This ain't superhero stuff. This is king stuff. So this is, if you threaten my country, I will kill you type stuff, right? That's the level that we're at. He's restraining himself, I think, because he's in the United States and he still likes to hang out with his Avenger friends. He doesn't want to piss them off. I think if he was not Avenger, there'd be bodies everywhere, honestly. So he knows who T'Challa is, but this dude still keeps his cool. And he's like, look, you could torture me, you could beat me. Understand you're not getting anything from me. But T'Challa's like, all right, I'm just gonna sit here and talk to you and get this information that I need. But he's still just to show you how upset T'Challa is. Because T'Challa always maintains his cool. He's very restrained on his emotions. But he still lets this guy, he still cracks this guy in the jaw because that's just to show you how pissed off he is. He didn't have to do this, but he did it out of pure pettiness, which is
Yep.
something you don't often see from T'Challa.
Okay, so briefly going back to issue number 9, this guy's name is Jack Taylor, right there. That's his name, Jack Taylor. He's the guy who runs that company called Spectrum Dynamics. Everybody knows
That's what I
that.
said.
Yeah. Everybody knows that he was a spook, and in the book it says he's highest clearance level and untouchable. So there are a lot of moving parts to try to take over Wakanda with that Jack dude, with this guy right here. And during the interview, when Monica was being interviewed, Monica asked, "Okay, so dude, who are you?" He was like, "Yo, I'm just some guy. I live at home in Queens with my mother." Well, clearly that's not the truth. His mother, quote unquote, is a robot, is a sentient robot, right here.
That speaks Spanish for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, he's a white dude. He's a ginger. We all know that gingers are evil, but that aside, he's American. You know what I'm saying? So why the damn robot is speaking Mexican, Spanish, excuse me, doesn't make sense to me. But it's interesting. And so, when he's in the car, T'Challa's trying to get information from him, socks him in the jaw, even though he didn't have to. And he calls up the line to let people know that T'Challa's coming. Then that's when we go into the backstory of the White Wolf. And the White Wolf was basically T'Chaka's son until he had his own child. Like, he was, as I said a moment ago, he's about 12 years older than T'Challa. As an aside, Paul, let's think about this. During the stop motion cartoon about T'Challa with Jaimin Hansu as the voice of T'Challa,
Yeah.
in that cartoon, it was based on the Hudlin run. In that run, T'Challa was the second son of T'Chaka.
Correct. They never said who the first son's name was. They just said
correct.
He
Clearly, T'Challa
was the first. He was the original heir to the throne.
Which version of the story do you go with in your mind? I'm asking you, Paul, because a lot of times while he's thinking, a lot of times they retcon stuff. Shuri was added during this run. In the Hudlin run, you had, like I said, you had the older brother, which has never made an appearance before, was not mentioned previously. So I'm just wondering how you reconcile all these different stories. Was there an older brother?
My preference, my personal preference, honestly, is I liked Hudlin's version best. And I know it's probably not a popular opinion, but I thought it made more sense to me in my mind that he was killed outside of Wakanda,
T'Chaka?
in foreign soil, as part of an assassination attempt from all these. I mean, the scene that precedes that, where T'Challa's father T'Chaka is at this conference with all these rich Europeans, all trying to placate him with a bag of money, a Ferrari full of blondes, and some cocaine or whatever, and thinking he's going to go ahead and give them whatever they want. And he's like, you guys got to have more self-respect. Just because I'm a black man, doesn't mean I'm just going to go fall for this foolishness. You need to, get out of your caves and, be better than you are. That's why I'm never going to deal with you.
But in your mind, does he really have an older brother? Because
does he really have an older brother? I don't know if it really matters.
In my mind, I just ignore that. I don't feel that he has an older brother.
No one else has ever acknowledged that concept that Hudlin had in that book. But I like the setup of how T'Chaka was killed in that scenario in foreign land better than the idea that these foreigners were able to come into Wakanda, and it's always depicted that they're sitting here literally with spears trying to repel these European guys. I never really dug that. I just never really dug that. because it's supposed to be this advanced country or what have you, and they're doing the prototypical. Well, we have our huts and we have our spears, and these Europeans come in and they just kill our king just like that with this advanced shooting weapon.
Okay,
That
but
just didn't make a lot of sense to me as much as the version that Hudlin did. I like that version better.
I
That's just
get
me personally.
I get all that. But in your mind, do you acknowledge the existence of the older brother as T'Challa's older brother? Because to be quite frank with you,
No.
before you answer, for me, that brother doesn't exist. It's T'Challa and it's Shuri. That older brother
Yeah,
does
I
not
mean, yeah. I mean, I
exist.
don't. I mean, it's kind of a throwaway line. No one's ever mentioned it before. Bo Big, what's up, Bo Big? He says his older brother's Jakara. Kirby created him.
I don't
Jakara was a bastard kid. That wasn't older than T'Challa. It's who. It's who he was a product of when T'Chaka had lost his wife, Naomi, who was T'Challa's mother, his birth mother, and he was so distraught with grief, he started just drinking and whoring around, and got some chambermaid, knocked her up, and Jakara was born, and became this younger brother bastard to T'Challa. Um, so yeah, that was a different
okay.
brother.
Okay, so here's the thing. A, I don't remember Jakar from Kirby. B,
Yeah, you do. Just think about it. Remember when in the early Black Panther run, he was a little short guy, Napoleonic complex. He lived in the next country over.
yes, yes,
He
yes, yes,
ultimately got
yes,
turned into a
yes. I
vibranium
do remember. I
monster.
do remember. I do remember. I do remember. The hell is that? Okay, but
Gross.
that's not the character that we see in the Hudlin run. And I view that character in the Hudlin run the same way that I do Chuck Cunningham. For those who don't know, Chuck Cunningham was the older brother of Richie Cunningham in Happy Days. He made like one, maybe two appearances, went away to college in the early episodes of Happy Days. We never saw him again. So, in my mind, Chuck Cunningham doesn't exist the same way that particular character doesn't exist. So, that's just something that's interesting, I think, to think about how you try to reconcile these different versions of characters from different creators. But, going back to issue 10 of this book, we see the White Wolf who was working or, being raised by the king of this African nation, going on hunts with him, basically being treated like a son, right? But he was his number one son until his biological son, T'Challa, was born. So if we go by the priest run, that older brother that Hutland introduced does not exist, right? Because T'Challa is the one who supplanted the White Wolf in the king's eye and heart.
Yeah, and what's interesting was the exchange, because this is the origin of Hunter in this issue. But you also have this exchange between Ramonda and Hunter, because Ramonda ended up being Hunter's stepmother as well, to an extent after you know the king's wife died. Um, and she points out, look, the two of us are both outsiders in this Wakandan kingdom, because I was born in South Africa, you're a white dude, and we're always going to have that in common. So that's what they use to bond together. So they both T'Challa and Hunter have a lot of respect for Ramonda, because she's their mother, their stepmother that they both love, and it's the only
You know
mother
who
they
Hunter
kind of
reminds
truly
me
know.
of in this image right here? He reminds me of Namor.
Namor
Yeah, yeah. He kind of looks like the way Namor has been drawn. Outside of the wings on the feet and the pointy ears. That's
must be the
exactly who I'm
haircut.
talking about. Yeah.
My question is, who did the white man's hair in Wakanda?
The same chicks who braided Peter's hair, Peter Parker. But one of the things going back to the White Wolf, so one of the things that I really appreciated. Okay, so going back to the story as it was, Monica Lynn leaves the police station. She's walking down the street. The White Wolf rolls up on her in his limousine with the Hatut Zaraze surrounding her in their camouflage. He takes her back to his penthouse, and she wants to see T'Challa because everybody in the world knows that T'Challa loves Lynn. And that's one of the things that she says, that anytime anything happens involving Wakanda, I get pulled into it. I get kidnapped, blah, 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 because people know that that T'Challa loves her. She's basically the lowest to his Clark Kent Superman. Everybody knows that. And so the White Wolf has her trying to protect her, and she wants to see T'Challa. And eventually, they do end up meeting up. One of the things that I really, really liked about this book is the deference that the White Wolf gave to T'Challa. Even though T'Challa had been supplanted as the ruler of Wakanda, the White Wolf still referred to him as my king. Command me, my king. It
Command me
shows
in
how
all
much he
things
loves
is the term
Wakanda and
used.
loves T'Challa. And that's why the most recent incarnations of the White Wolf that has appeared over the past year made no sense, because this character ended up being a white supremacist, which makes literally no
Yeah.
sense
A lot of
whatsoever.
people like what Mark is referring to is the Captain America Symbol of Truth book that was done. Beautiful artwork, by the way, on that
Yeah.
book. But it was done about a year ago. I had a lot of problems with that book, honestly. There were some mischaracterizations. Chief among them is what Mark just mentioned. The White Wolf suddenly becomes a white supremacist and racist and anti-Wakanda. I mean, I understand you got beef with your brother, but he doesn't know any other people. He was
Imagine,
raised in Wakanda from birth. He
right?
considers himself Wakanda.
Literally.
He's never in any issue prior to that run ever displayed himself as anything other than someone who really loved Wakanda, even if Wakanda didn't love him, even if he had
Imagine,
problems with his brother.
imagine Eminem all of a sudden becoming MAGA, right? That's what the equivalent is. To
Yeah.
the White Wolf, the White Wolf understands that he is a white person. He understands that. But he was brought up, raised, nurtured, and actually loved by black folks. And then for all of a sudden for him to turn his back on the people who raised and loved him doesn't make sense. So I didn't like that version of him. It was illogical. Also, I will say, and I've mentioned this before, I do not like this version of T'Challa. He looks more like Luke Cage than he does the T'Challa that I've come to know and love. So
I got no problems with it because it reminds me of my look.
bless your heart. That's what I'll say. But we have to go to what happens on the very next page, right? Achebe kills Wamanda. He bashes her in her
Killed,
dome.
killed is a strong word.
I'm sorry, what? He unalives her. How about that? He
I just
bashes
knocks her
her.
out.
He bashes her about her head and neck until she no longer breathes. How about that?
I don't know if they
Kill.
went into that level of detail.
They did. At the very end of the book, he's talking to his doll again, and the doll's like, "Oh, she's dead." No, it's not. No, she's not. I mean, she's clearly dead. I mean,
Right.
he
He says, no, she's not.
okay, but he's crazy. He's
Yes,
crazy.
he's crazy. And we also know, although we are rereading this for the first time in 30 years, we are both aware of the fact that Ramonda is in subsequent issues. So clearly she's not dead.
Well, okay, but see, that goes back to what we were saying earlier about what version of the story do you accept? You know, do we
It's not a
accept?
version of the story. In the priest run, she shows up later. She's not dead.
Okay, so look, I haven't read these books in 30 years. If you're saying that she shows up later, okay, I'll trust your word. I don't know that independently right now, June 7th, 2024. I'm reading this from new eyes, so to speak, because I haven't read this since it first dropped 20 years ago.
The
But
last thing,
in this particular book, it pretty much looks like she's dead. Look right here.
yeah, I understand when people sleep, it also looks like they're dead. I mean, I get it. The
So she's
last
taking,
cool thing, the
oh, hold
last
on.
cool thing
Wait,
in
hold
this
on.
book.
So she's taking a nap? She's having a siesta?
Let me know when you're done. Okay. The last cool thing we see in this book is a big kaiju killing mecha monster straight out of Voltron and Robotech. Maybe Thundercats.
Yeah. So basically, after Achebe bashes Rabanda about her head and neck, he gets some type of code.
Wait. Why is this cool? Because Jeffrey Thorne's in the house right now in the chat. And remember, I told you it's cool to read these old issues and you see things that you have not seen in 30 years. And then you see the ties to stuff that you have later on and what's going on presently. What did Jeffrey Thorne notably do in his fabulous one-shot King in Black Panther? He had T'Challa say, yeah, I've got this big mecha Zord that we have had up lying in the cut to face off against the Phoenix Force someday, right? To go up against Null. And here is what I would assume is a prototype of that mecha Zord in the Priest run that I completely forgot about. Completely forgot about it. That's how you know you have good writers that do their research and look at past stuff and
Right.
love stuff like this, man. This is fun. This has been fun.
It is.
Rereading these old issues.
Right. Because again, I read this book when it came out. I have literally no independent recollection of what went on. I had no idea. I had no idea that Ramonda was beaten about her head and neck. I did not know that. I did not remember that. So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen in issue number 11. Does she survive? Was she taking a siesta? I don't know. We'll find out next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
I have to put a post in here because it's blasphemy, and I have to call out Derek.
Do me a favor. Delete H&H from this because Robotech is not better. Voltron is not better than Robotech. Yeah,
Voltron better than Robotech? You're out your damn mind, son.
Absolutely not.
Hey, shout out to
hold on a second. I'm not even a fan of mecha anime, but Robotech is the best mecha anime ever.
That's not even a question.
At all.
Shout out to Bo Big. Thank you, bro.
For those who don't know, there are different type of anime. I'm a huge anime fan. Anime that focuses on robots like Robotech and Voltron, that's known as mecha anime, right? For me, as somebody who grew up in the 70s and 80s, Robotech is the best mecha anime ever. Not Voltron, not Code Geass, not whatever else is out there.
Gundam,
that's the one I was thinking about. Robotech is the best one ever.
But yeah, it was first in terms of doing it on that scale and what have you, having the 3 different eras. God, I love Robotech. God, I love Robotech. Shout out to Brandon Thomas, who's writing, Brandon Easton, who's writing Robotech Rick Hunter right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's go to the chat. We have a
chat talk. Let's what chat talking about. Seriously Black says Hunter and Queen Ramonda have a Loki Frigga relationship.
Interesting. Loki and Frigga, that's over in the Thor comic books. Loki obviously is the adopted half-brother, the adopted brother of Thor. Frigga is Thor's stepmother. That's a very good analogy. Seriously Black.
But isn't Frigga also not truly Asgardian? Isn't she like a witch or something like that? She's not originally Asgardian, is she?
She may not be. I don't really remember that. But going to Seriously Black's name comes from the Harry Potter franchise. Sirius Black was James and I don't remember his mother, Lily. James and Lily Potter's friend from Hogwarts. Sirius Black, he's the one who could change into a dog. That's where Seriously Black got his name. Sitting up here in his picture looking like Blade. Shout out to Seriously Black.
The watch says petty but necessary in terms of T'Challa. I'm assuming
if somebody
T'Challa
acts
punched
up, you gotta punch him in the face. You gotta punch him in the face. That's just like law.
Sometimes you just gotta let some steam off too.
Kirby
We
created
talked about the Jakar thing. Dr.
Jack
Wizard says,
Kinsler,
what's
shout
up?
out.
Kinsler?
He was that general.
Was that
I'm
general?
assuming he's talking about Hunter. Listen, I have the greatest deal of respect for Hunter, the way he was portrayed up until the past year. I don't agree with that version of Hunter. It just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Jeffrey Thorne is talking about.
Yeah. Chuck went up the stairs. So for those who don't know, Happy Days was a big series back in the 1970s that was set in the 1950s. Richie, if you know anything about the Fonz, that's where that comes from Happy Days. Chuck, who was a basketball star, went upstairs, never came back. It's much like in the series Family Matters, where the youngest Winslow daughter, I don't remember the character's name, went up the stairs. She was never seen in any episodes of Family Matters ever, which kind of crazy. That particular actress, whose name I cannot remember, ended up doing porn, which is a shame. But yeah, she went by the name of Crave, if someone was interested in looking it up. But
it's the fact that it's in your mental Rolodex is astonishing.
It is. There's a lot of bro. There's a lot of
Chuck Cunningham from Happy Days, Judy Winslow from Family
Judy
Man.
Winslow. That's it. Judy, exactly. That's just what I said. Absolutely. Chuck pulled
Dr. Wizard, the king of useless information. Hunter was a Wakandan supremacist. Yes, he was. That's what making him a white supremacist didn't make any sense
at all.
It's like almost every black male superhero started looking like Avery Brooks.
For those who don't know, Avery Brooks was in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Captain Sisko. He was also in
Spencer for Hire. He played Hawk.
That's
the man called Hawk. If you have some free time, you want to watch a dope television show, go on Tubi and look up A Man Called Hawk.
Dude was like 27 years old when that series was on, looking every bit of 45 and was cool as hell. He's one of the top 10 coolest TV characters ever, and he ain't 10. Let me ask you this, Paul. As an aside, if you guys were to say who was the top coolest TV character, who would you say was number one? I'm asking you, Paul.
I'm thinking the coolest TV character of all time.
Your definition of cool is who is the coolest television character?
I'd have to think about that, dude. I mean, I'm 50 years old. I mean, that's a lot of television I've watched.
That is. Hawk is up there. He's top 10, top 5.
I'll tell you randomly who would be on that list. Tyrion Lannister.
Tyrion was a bad boy. For those who don't know, if you did not watch Game of Thrones, Tyrion was the paterfamilias of the Lannister clan. He's the one who brought their family into prominence. He was cool. He was cool. He's top 20. I don't know if I would give him top 10. He was definitely top 20. Captain Kirk is top 10. Right?
Captain Kirk, of course, is top 10.
Captain Kirk's top 10. Raylan Gibbons from Justified is top 10. Right? Stringfellow Hawk is top 10. So I'd just be interested to know.
Stringfellow Hawk? Come on, man.
Wait, Stringfellow.
He was cool, but top 10?
Who?
Stringfellow Hawk?
Wait, who's Stringfellow Hawk? I know that. Why do I have that name in my head?
I thought, isn't that what you just said? Stringfellow Hawk.
I did.
Airwolf. The pilot in Airwolf.
Yes.
He's cool, but I wouldn't give him top 10.
No. He's not. He's not top 10, top 20, maybe top 50. But I'm thinking Hawk. I meant Hawk, whatever his whole full name was.
It just went by Hawk. It's just Hawk.
Okay. So for those who don't know, back in the 80s, for whatever reason, helicopters were the thing of the day. You had Riptide, you had Blue Thunder, you had Airwolf. Those were three different television shows that centered around helicopters. And Stringfellow Hawk was the pilot of the Airwolf, which is a very, very cool show.
At
But
one time, within a 5-year span, you had Airwolf, Blue
Riptide,
Thunder, you had
Riptide,
Knight
Blue Thunder,
Rider, you had Street Hawk, you had all these shows that centered around men in their
Automan.
vehicles.
Don't forget Automan.
Automan, yes, yes, Automan. And what was that show with the boat
Animal.
with
Animal.
Hulk Hogan?
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan had a show where he and this other dude had this super powered boat.
I have no independent recollection of that.
Oh, what was the name of that show? It was the same genre where they're like spies or something or superheroes, and they had a boat that was like super fast and bulletproof and had guns and stuff on it. I don't remember. Anyway, I digress. Jeffrey Thorne says, "What the hell is unalive nonsense?"
Is the Winterman
Well,
Project
the algorithms of the internet tend to not like when you use the DEAD word. So they tend to tag you with it and flag your videos and social media posts when you do stuff like that. Marc has been banned from social media enough times that he's learned his lessons along the way.
First off, that's a lie.
You oh really? Let me go look you up on Facebook.
That's one. And plus the fact my account was hacked. So yeah, let's start there.
Sure.
No.
Sure. Correct. I think that's in reference to we're talking about how Jeff had emulated the Mecha Zord in his King in Black from the Priest run.
Gotcha.
I don't know what he's talking about. Oh hell no.
So wait, the Winterman and Thorne Identity are both Jeffrey Thorne.
They're both Jeffrey Thorne. I guess he's going through two different accounts. Blurred Forever. Issue 11 of Black Panther will be bittersweet as it is drawn by the late Marc D. Bright. Ah, jeez.
So since we're pretty much done with 11, you want to go into that right now? What you texted me about?
Yeah. Did I send you a picture?
You did send me a picture. So for those who don't know, comic book creator Marc D. Bright, who is a brother who who worked for Milestone, Marvel, DC, died back in March, maybe April. And a lot of times when significant creators pass, in the books that they worked on or in the companies that they worked on, there will be memorials to that particular writer, artist, whatever. In Marvel, there has been nothing yet. And Mark Bright died. I'll tell you here in a moment. He died a while ago. And there has been
March 26th.
March 26th. March, April, May, June. Right? It's 3 months. They could have easily inserted something into these books since then, but they have not over in Marvel. But apparently in DC, I didn't have any DC books this particular week, so I don't know. So what do you have?
This is what DC released this week in their books. Remembering an Icon, MD Doc Bright, 1955, 2024. Just a random picture that he did for Green Lantern. Now, at the lower part of this, there were some quotes by Dennis Cowan. Who were the other two? It was Dennis Cowan. Oh man, there are two other famous creators that did some quotes talking about him and his significance, which I appreciated them, saying their thoughts on it. But they could have done a little bit more than just this. He did a lot of work for DC. They could have. This is something that took them 15 minutes to put together on a
didn't
page.
take that long.
If it took even that long, they just picked the picture they did and just threw it on the page and said, "Remembering an Icon." Didn't have his picture on there. They could have done a collage of pictures, like much like the picture that I've been showing you guys, right? The one I created. Um, I just
It was
at least they did
it was
something.
unremarkable.
Marvel still hasn't done anything.
But check your DMs real quick. So while Paul's pulling up the DMs, there was a creator by the name of Ramona Fredon, Fredon or whatever. And I was recently reading some issues of some DC books, and in several of the DC books that I read, there was this image of Ramona. And you also had comments from other creators who Ramona inspired, right? Why does Mark not have the same level of respect and attention that Ramona did? And it's very, very disappointing that these companies are not giving the Black creators their respect. Um, there have been other creatives, obviously, who have passed who get these full 1-2 page spreads of their significance to that particular company or a character, showing them the respect that they deserve. Mark D. Bright has not received that yet. Definitely not over in Marvel, and just got a second of something over in DC, and it's very, very disappointing. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just wanted to pull this up, man. This is a subject that really just bothers me. I mean, there's blatant right and wrong, and this is just blatantly wrong. Um, I showed you the picture that DC Comics did. This is the one that I did. It took me a half an hour, but at least it has the man on there. At least it shows, hey, we had a Black creator that worked here that did a lot of significant work. Here's a bunch of pictures of various covers you might have seen that he's done. Here's a bunch of books that he did for us that you might be familiar with. You know, he did a great run called Green Lantern Mosaic. He worked on an imprint that we published called Milestone, in which he did all the issues of Icon. You know, they could have done a collage like that showing all the works that he did for them. They just pick some random picture from Green Lantern in which Hal Jordan's in the middle of it. His bigger run was actually with John Stewart, a Black character. They could have picked the Green Lantern Mosaic run, and if you want to do one singular picture, you could have picked that run.
And over in Marvel,
Jordan,
you know,
and
they
Dead Center,
could have the Falcon run. They could have the
they
Iron Man run, and
well,
they
this is
haven't
the
even
thing.
done
Falcon
anything.
was Marvel.
So
Marvel still has to do their thing where they have Captain Marvel and they have Falcon. You know, they
these are
have
the
Power Man and Iron Fist.
these are the 3 Marvel books that I picked up this week. Now, understand, when did he die? When did Mark die?
March 26th.
March 26th. These are the 3 Marvel books that I picked up this week. There is nothing about him in any of these books yet. And it's just very disappointing how Marvel, specifically in DC, have both treated or not treated or shown respect for a creator like Mark D. Bright. So, yeah. What are the comments?
I've been
Next thing. Excuse me.
I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me talk about this, but it really does bother me. I think it's wrong. It's shameful and just blatant. I've been sharing this hashtag, where is MD Bright Tribute? I'd encourage you guys to do the same. Tag Marvel in it and ask them why they still haven't acknowledged the works that this creator did, who helped build these companies. He's a GOAT. He's up there. He's at least as important as the people that we've seen pass away this year who have gotten acknowledgments like that. 2-page spreads. Mark just showed you a picture of a creator who had her actual picture in the memorial. What DC did, I applaud them for finally doing something. An intern did that in 10 minutes.
It could have been
10
better.
minutes.
Yep.
Y'all could have done better than that. I did better than that. And I did that on my phone. I'm not a multi-million-dollar company. I did it on my phone.
What other comments do we have?
Anyway, I digress. Sorry. I go on my soapbox on this because I'm really just kind of passionate about it. I'm kind of pissed off about it. What else? We have JB Odell says American Call Hawk was a dope show. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
One season, I think.
Only one season.
Yep.
Levi Ackerman was cool.
That's an Attack on Titan reference. Attack on Titan is the best anime ever, bar none.
Better than Robotech?
Better than Robotech. Yes.
Wow. AC Slater? What's the matter with your boy Chillmonger?
AC Slater, for those who don't know, was a character in Saved by the Bell. Yeah. I don't know who or what he's referring to in reference to that, but yeah, that's who that character is.
He's talking about, you said, who's the coolest guys on television?
AC Slater.
AC Slater.
Okay, that's some Canadian shit. AC Slater isn't even top 1,000. Get the hell out.
Is Mario, whatever the dude's name, is he Canadian?
No, but Chillmonger is. So.
Oh, Chillmonger's Committee. Yes,
yeah.
I know. Dr. Wizard also points out that Magnum PI also had a helicopter. Yep. Well, his boy TC had a helicopter.
TC, yep. He died about 2 or 3 years ago, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Derek also mentions Automan. Every time he turned a sharp turn. Yep. That was kind of cool. He did like 90-degree turns.
So basically, Automan played on the
ABC.
What was that movie? With Jeff Bridges?
Tron. It was basically using the technology that was developed in the movie Tron that was done by Disney in 1982. And they used that technology in a television show where Tron was about a man going into the digital world. Automan was a show about a computer guy from the police department who had a computerized character come into the real world.
And the star of that show was the son of Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball, a.k.a. Desi Arnaz Jr. Right. He was in that show. I've never seen him again in anything that I recall.
I don't even know if he's still alive.
He is.
Thunder in Paradise. Thank you to Damon Lacey. That's a show I was talking about with Hulk Hogan and the boat. Thunder in Paradise.
I have no.
That must have been late 1980s, early 90s at best.
I have no independent recollection of that.
Look it up. Thunder in Paradise. A couple guys mentioned.
So a lot of you guys knew that show. I had no idea what that was.
Got to step your game up, man. Even Derek knew it was.
Thunder in Paradise. God, dog.
Look at that.
So if it was in the late 80s and 90s, I was overseas at that point, and we didn't get regular TV. So
Damon Lacey said Hogan's show came out in the 90s. Viper was. You remember Viper?
No.
Viper was like the new Knight Rider. So here's the premise. Viper was a cool premise. You had a supercar. It was not like a kit where it had like an AI type thing on it. There was no AI on it. But it was a souped up car, bulletproof, could change the shape and color and stuff. And the police department made it to be like a supercar police chase vehicle. But they needed a driver. So the police department was chasing and the feds were chasing this criminal who was a driver, bad criminal. And he was basically a wheelman for organized crime, the wheelman. And the chasing him, he ultimately gets into an accident and suffers a head injury. And they manage to, and his face gets messed up. So they do facial reconstructive surgery on his face and wipe out his memory and give him a new memory where he's a police officer. They allowed him to keep his skills as a wheelman, but gave him the persona of a police officer and said, you're going to be the new driver of the Viper supercar and fight crime. So they turned a criminal and said, your sentence is that you're going to be rehabilitated into a police officer and fight crime in a supercar. And the show is called Viper.
Okay, so I just looked it up, and on IMDb, the show was on from 1994 to 1999. The fact that it lasted 5 years
It lasted
is
that long?
impressive. 5 years, 1994 to
I had
1999.
no idea Viper
That
lasted that long.
that encompasses my college and law school days. I have no recollection of this show, and I watched a
Yeah,
lot of
we
TV.
were we
I
were in
have
law
no
school during that whole
independent
period of
recollection.
time. I barely had time to watch it, which is why I'm surprised it lasted 4 or 5 years. I did not realize it lasted that long. Wow.
Yeah. I have, I'm sitting up here looking at the stars of the show. I have no independent recollection of any of these
It was like
individuals.
Jeff McCaffrey or something like that was the lead guy.
James McCaffrey.
James McCaffrey.
Right. Now, I will say that Camille Winbush was in 6 episodes. Camille Winbush was the oldest daughter, Vanessa, in the Bernie Mac show. But I don't recognize any of these people. I
Yeah.
have no independent recollection of
You're
this
too
show.
busy, like me, studying all the time, so you didn't have time to watch television. I have a
Sure,
big
that's
hole in my comic collection during my law school years.
yeah.
Chillmonger says, nice picture. I know it's not the point, but you guys make this Jon Stewart stuff easy for me.
I don't know what he's saying.
This guy has a mat on for Jon Stewart. Thorne, they don't care about us. They don't.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, it's sad. Like, if God forbid something were to happen to Jeffrey Thorne, how long would it take for them to acknowledge his contributions? It's absurd, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, Derek says Chillmonger AC Slater
He
played
was
Mario
not. Was he
Lopez,
really?
who was a member of Menudo back in the day.
Wait, is that real? H&H, I don't know for those who don't know, back specifically in the 1980s, Menudo was a boy band that was mainly Hispanic dudes,
It was
right?
the Backstreet Boys in the Latin community.
Correct. And they had members come and go. Ricky Martin is one of the more famous members of Menudo.
Yeah.
I did not know if H&H is being serious. I had no idea that Mario Lopez was a
I
member
did
of
not know
Menudo.
that either.
Yeah.
Wasn't that singer Rico Suave in Menudo at one point too?
I can't say that. I don't know. I don't know. That's crazy if that's true.
Jeff says that's the Knight Rider origin, except he's a criminal. Yeah.
Yeah,
They literally stole the same origin, except he was a
Yeah.
criminal.
I never watched that. Forgot about Viper. I had no idea about that show.
Viper wasn't a bad show. Viper was not a bad show. Marwan Williams says, if I remember correctly, Viper and Hercules: The Legendary Journeys came out at the same time. Yeah, it was around the same time. Do you remember that Hercules Xena Power Hour? Do you remember
Yes.
that? They called
Yes,
it the
I
Adventure.
do. In the
They
late
called it the
90s.
Adventure Pack.
One of
So
my
you had Hercules, you had Xena, Warrior Princess, and there was a couple other shows at that same time. Was it Cleopatra 2020?
I don't know that one.
They were all like Fox Television. When Fox for Television first started, they were trying to find their way, and they created that adventure hour. The Adventure Pack is what they called it, and they had all these action adventure shows like back to back, like 3 or 4 action adventure shows. I remember 2 of them was Xena and Hercules.
Hercules starred Kevin Sorbo, who's absolutely a nut now. He's a MAGA nut. Xena starred Lucy Lawless, who would have made a phenomenal Wonder Woman back in the day.
She
One
would
of
have,
my
yeah, she absolutely would
one
have
of
made
my
it.
one of my good friends back then was a huge Xena fan. I'd never watched Hercules. I watched a little bit of Xena because of her. But yeah, and Lucy Lawless ended up playing in Spartacus, which was a phenomenal series.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see. Thought I didn't mention
I remember
Stingray.
Stingray.
Stingray, that car.
Yeah.
Was it a
The car kind of
65
reminded me
or
of the
68
car that was
Corvette?
in Miami Vice, kind of.
Was it done by Michael Mann?
Let me look it up.
I want to say it was done by Michael Mann because it had kind of a Miami Vice vibe to it.
It did. It did.
So for those who don't know, Stingray, they never really talked about his origins, but what you did know is that he was a Vietnam vet. This is the 1980s, so he's still a young guy. He was a Vietnam vet. He had ties, nebulous ties to the government as like a CIA agent or something, a former CIA agent. But he just did good deeds. He would not ask for money, but people could contact him and ask him to work on, various jobs of justice. But he would not ask for payment. He would just simply ask for favors. He said, well, look, I'm not going to ask you for money, but at some point in the future, I'm going to ask you to help me do something, and you're going to do it. If you promise to do whatever it is I ask you to do without question, then I will work this job for you. So you would see in every episode, he'd help people, but then whenever he needed help helping someone, he would go to a former client and say, I need you to help, establish this identity for me, or let me borrow your house, or let me borrow your car. And that was how he would accomplish jobs for the next person, is by borrowing things or calling in favors from former clients.
I sent a picture into the DMs of Stingray. That show came out in 1986. It may have lasted 2 seasons. I never watched that show either, to be quite
And he
honest.
drove this, what year was the car? 65 or
Probably like
68?
66 or 67 Stingray.
Oh, his car is beautiful. Car was
It is.
absolutely beautiful. It's a work of art.
Yeah.
You can catch a lot of these shows, honestly, on Tubi. Tubi
For
has
free.
all these shows.
There are a lot of streaming services out there that play a lot of these old shows. Tubi and Freevee are 2 of them. But yeah. I
Yeah.
never watched that show. What are the comments?
Let's see. Derek says facelift for both Michael Knight of Knight Rider and the guy in Viper. Never thought of that.
I didn't remember that Michael Knight had a facelift.
Oh yeah. When he got a complete facial thing to make him look like the son of Wilton Knight of Knight Industries, who showed up in later episodes driving car, because he was like, Michael Knight, my father gave Michael Knight my face to replace me, and I should be running Knight Industries. I should be the heir to the empire. And so I'm going to take the prototype to Kit car and destroy Kit and Michael Knight and Knight Industries because I'm mad, because my dad disowned me.
I had no idea that. Yeah.
Yes, I was a big Knight Rider fan.
Yeah, not me. So basically, David Hasselhoff from Baywatch, he started off in the 80s in the show Knight Rider. That's how he got popular.
Knight Rider is a huge show in Germany. David Hasselhoff is considered a megastar.
He's like a national treasure,
in Germany, because he's the Hoff. He's a German superstar. Damon Lacey say Joe Morgan was on that show.
Which one?
Was it Viper he was on?
Hawk? Knight Rider?
I think he's probably referring to Viper. A-Team had a helicopter. Riptide did also. Well, they didn't have a helicopter for A-Team.
Listen,
Murdoch can fly helicopters, but they
Murdoch can fly anything, but a helicopter was not central to the story. It was that black GMC van.
The GMC van.
In today's time, how this van can drive all around the country and not be pulled over. So that wouldn't necessarily work in today's time, but it
easily I can't literally think of a cooler van ever than the A-Team van. The A-Team van had mod tires, wheels on it. It had this pinstripe. It had this paint job where it was black on the lower part of the pinstripe and a metallic charcoal gray on the upper part of the pinstripe. It had on the interior, it had gun racks, and it had like bulletproof things on the inside so that people could shoot from the outside and with bullet holes, but it couldn't penetrate the inside of the vehicle. It had a revved up engine. It could go really fast. Somehow they were able to do corners in a van, which I can't fathom to this day how they're able to do that. It was the coolest, baddest vehicle of the 80s.
So
Right up
so
there
check
with
this out.
Knight Rider.
There was a movie in 2010. I can't believe it was that long ago at this point. But a lot of times what Hollywood does is they don't create anything new, they recycle things. And in 2010, they made an A-Team movie that starred Liam Neeson. It starred Bradley Cooper, fresh off of the Hangover series, Charlene Copley, who was in District 9,
District
and
9.
Rampage Jackson. That movie deserved a sequel. I don't care what anybody says.
It
That
really
movie
did.
was
It really did. It
phenomenal.
was set up for a sequel and they never made it, which I can't understand.
Right. The movie was phenomenal. But
The A-Team movie was really, really, really good.
A-Team movie was really, really, really good. It was really good. So yeah.
Hollywood doesn't know what the hell it's doing. Thorne, Jeffrey Thorne says Gerardo.
I don't know what he's talking
about. The actor? The television host guy? Mario Lopez was a drummer in Kids Incorporated. What the hell?
I don't know.
You don't remember Kids Incorporated? We're Kids Incorporated. K-I-E-S. Yeah.
Don't do that.
You don't remember Kids Incorporated?
Don't do that.
All right. So Kids Incorporated was a Saturday morning. You know how we had our Saturday morning cartoons?
Of course.
So towards the mid 80s, they were trying to do a little bit more live action stuff with the Saturday morning cartoon lineup. And Kids Incorporated was a fictional show that had live action, but it also incorporated sequences that were animated. So it was a mixture of live action and animated. And it had to do with a group of kids. Huh?
So like the Banana Splits.
Sure, yes, like the Banana Splits. But it had to do, the plot had to do with a group of kids that are on this block or whatever in this neighborhood, and they formed a singing group. And it's a multi-ethnic and men, women, different races, what have you.
It was woke. It was woke. No, I don't watch woke shit.
It was a singing group. And they throw concerts and do life lessons and stuff like that. And it was called Kids Incorporated. And their theme song went the way I poorly just sang, called Kids Incorporated.
Don't do that.
It was very catchy. That's why, 40 years later, 45 years later, I still remember it. Let's see. Ricky Martin was in Menudo. Mario Lopez was at least in the Menudo videos.
I have no independent recollection of that.
Why do I get the feeling Derek Harrison has all the Menudo albums?
Do you remember the Jets?
Who?
The Jets, the family, the Jets.
Yeah, they were like a Polynesian family, weren't they?
They basically were like the Polynesian version of DeBarge.
Right, very much so.
I Have a Crush on You was the song that I remember that went towards.
What was the name of the song again?
I Have a Crush on You.
I Have a Crush on You. Yes,
no,
yes. That was a good song.
I'm not saying that. That's the song.
I know the song, too.
Okay.
All right. Jeffrey Thorne says Cleopatra 2025, Jack of all trades. Yes, that was part of the whole action pack. I said adventure pack. It was called the action pack that Fox Television had back in the day with Xena, Warrior Princess, and Hercules.
Jack of all trades. I've never heard of that before in my life.
Yep. Look it up. And the best thing is, all this crap is on like Tubi and Pluto TV, all the free streaming services that are on your Fire Stick or whatever.
Real quick, speaking of Tubi, watch The Dirty D. You're welcome. That's all I'll say.
The Dirty D?
The Dirty D. Watch The Dirty D on Tubi. You're welcome.
If he's telling you to watch it, you probably don't want to watch that with your kids.
Watch The Dirty D on Tubi. You're welcome.
Marwan Williams says, thank you for saying my name correctly. I appreciate that.
No problem.
I don't remember what I said, but okay. You're welcome. Street Hawk was that show. Street Hawk was Knight Rider, but with a motorcycle.
I have no independent recollection of that.
Dude, are you kidding me right now? You don't remember Street Hawk?
No, I do not.
Okay, that just won't do.
So let
I
me
gotta
look it
pull up
up.
a picture of
Keep
Street Hawk.
talking. I'm gonna look it
This
up.
is absurd. How do you not remember Street Hawk? Do you
'Cause I
remember
never
Night Rider?
American television series Street Hawk
You're freaking kidding me right now.
on from
Freaking Street Hawk, man.
1980. It aired for 14 episodes on ABC in 85. I'm sorry that I don't remember a show that lasted for only 14 episodes back when Reagan was in office. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I have no independent
So
recollection of that
Street
show.
Hawk, let me give you the premise. So you see this dude right here, right? This dude was a motorcycle cop. And he also on the side was like like not a stunt rider, but he like raced motorcycles. He raced motorcycles. And he was in a terrible accident and he couldn't be a motorcycle cop anymore. Which pissed him off because he like broke his leg in several places. He couldn't be a cop. So they basically gave him a desk job. And this scientist, played by this guy, Joe Ragalbuto, created a super motorcycle called Street Hawk, which is right here. Street Hawk could go like 300 miles per hour, something like that. Obviously, a rider on a motorcycle cannot control a motorcycle going that fast, no matter how good they think they are. So it had like this AI thing, or he would remotely control it. So he'd be like, you need to get over to the other side of town and you have 5 minutes to do so. So I'm going to put this motorcycle into turbo mode. I'm going to make all the traffic lights that go on your path green because I have remote. Because this guy was the guy in the chair. And he said, I'll make all those traffic lights turn green and I'll make your motorcycle go 300 miles an hour. I will control it. Just hang on and don't fall off. That's when he would control it to do that. This motorcycle also had like an M60 machine gun in the front. It could do remember how Kit in Knight Rider could do like a turbo boost where it would jump over cars and jump in the air and stuff? Street Hawk could do the same thing. It could jump up in the air and do a turbo boost type thing and jump over other vehicles. They did and here's the thing with the writer. So this cop, they said, hey, we know that you're bummed out because now you're assigned desk duty. What if we could spend a lot of money, fix your leg with a special surgery that nobody knows about, that's super expensive, but in exchange for that, you come work for us in this super, super secret police program where you're going to be a police officer who polices crimes on this super bike. And you're going to work for us. And he says, yeah, I'll sign up for it. And he became the Street Hawk. The helmet that he has a bunch of gadgets in it. So he could turn his head and like control stuff. And it was all sight. It was kind of advanced and everything. But yeah, this is like the Night Rider of motorcycles.
I never saw that. So obviously back in the 80s, it was all about vehicles.
Vehicles.
Yeah.
Airwolf, Night Rider, Street Hawk,
Helicopters, cars,
Thunder in Paradise.
Apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. They're very big about boys and their toys back in the 80s.
Yep. What are the comments?
Marwan Williams says, I met Lucy Lawless in person. She is the sweetest person ever. I can imagine that.
She seems like it.
Isn't she Australian? She's like Australian or something.
Yeah. A lot of those people from Xena were from Australia or
Netherlands. What do you call it?
New Zealand.
New Zealand, yes.
In fact, I want to say that's where what's my man's name who played Judge Dredd in the more recent incarnation was in Thor as Scourge.
The guy from The Boys.
Yes.
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban. Carl Urban should be a bigger star than he is. B,
really should.
There should have been a sequel to Judge Dredd with him. C, he's from either Australia or New Zealand, and he was in Xena Warrior Princess, so that's where he came from. So yes.
What did he play in Xena Warrior Princess?
He was like
He wasn't Aries.
Apollo,
That was a
something like
different actor.
that, or Aries or something. Yeah,
He wasn't Aries. He was a different act. That was a different actor.
yeah, he was like Apollo or something. But yeah, that's
Maybe.
where it came from.
Stingray had a black
65. I
1965
said
Corvette
66. It was
Stingray.
65.
65. Okay. Damon Lacey says Tech War, Knight Rider 20 something were two of the other shows with Hercules. Wow, that's really you guys are making me
No
really go back.
recollection of that.
So, do you remember Tech War?
No.
This is how I know I spent a lot of my time in the 80s watching a lot of television. Tech War was a series based on books written by William Shatner, who you all know as Captain James
Okay.
T. Kirk. It was set in the future. It was a police show in which tech was called. They didn't have drugs; they had tech. Tech was like this technology that would allow you to, I don't know, expand your mind or something like
Zone
that.
out.
Um, and it starred the actor. All right, here's really taking you back in old television. Do you remember a television series called BJ and the Bear?
Of course.
Okay,
For those who don't
that
know, back in the
actor
19 hold on. Back
name
in
I
the
can't remember.
1970s, thanks to Smokey and the Bandit, uh, there was a huge interest in semi trucks. And so there was Smokey and the Bear. There's a movie called Convoy, and BJ and the Bear was about a guy who drove a truck who had a monkey like Bubbles, a chimpanzee, who rode around with him solving crimes and problems and things of that nature. So that was the 70s.
Definitely an original concept. But that actor who played BJ was in Tech War. William Shatner also made those into comic books. So Tech War was actually a comic books. I have the comic books in one of these boxes somewhere. Yeah, Tech War. And Knight Rider 2000 was a series in the late 80s or early 90s in which they brought back Knight Rider after it had been canceled. And the kit was now a red car. It was red. The car color was red. It was like a made for TV movie. Jeffrey Thorne says Robotech was actually 3 shows edited together and rescheduled for the USA. Yes, I
That's
know.
correct. That's correct.
The first one being Macross, the second one called Southern Cross, and the third one called Mos Peta. Genesis Climber Mos Peta is how it translates from Japanese. Yes, I really love Robotech.
Yeah, Robotech was
Super Force was a dope show too. I know that name, but I can't remember what Super Force was.
no idea.
I do remember Super Force was a show in that era, but I don't remember what it was about.
No idea.
Damon Lacey says, I was wrong about Joe Morgan on Viper. Yeah, I don't remember him on that either. Remember Airwolf and Blue Thunder? Yeah, we talked about that, of course.
Yes. Jan Michael
Juan
Vincent was
Williams, yes.
that dude back in the day.
Fergie was in Kids Incorporated, so was Martika.
I
Holy
have no
cow.
idea
All
who
right,
she
so
was.
first of all, I had no idea Fergie from Black Eyed Peas was ever in Kids Incorporated.
Okay, let me stop you real quick. Let me just interject. Time out. So back in 1997, maybe 98, there was a group called the Black Eyed Peas that was much kind of like a Tribe Called Quest, or a Tribe Called Quest would be kind of the
No, no,
equivalent.
sir. I will not let you blaspheme and degrade
Listen,
a Tribe
what was
Called
the
Quest
other group?
by comparing them to
That
Black Eyed
okay,
Peas.
hold on, stop. What was the group passing me by? That was
Far Side.
Far Side. Okay. So Black Eyed Peas was the equivalent of Far Side back in like 1996, 1997.
Still disrespectful, but I
That's
allow it.
fine. That's fine. But that was my jam. That was my vibe. I have their very first CD in the other room right now. I like that type of rap, right? But then all of a sudden, like 4 or 5 years later, they introduced this white chick, and then they just went like, double, triple, quadruple platinum, and they became
Because
pop.
they went hip hop rather than hip hop.
They went pop, and they added Fergie to the group with her singing, and they became very, very famous or whatever. I never liked them when they added Fergie. I'm just going to be honest with you. But that's where Fergie came from. She was not an original member of the group. To me, the group was much akin to Far Side or a Tribe Called Quest. Paul's disagreement aside, that's what they were like. That was the vein. They
That's
were not like
disrespectful to compare them to
they were
Tribe Called
not like NWA. They were not like a hardcore, thug type group. That's the vein
They were backpack rap.
before backpack rap was a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking late '90s. But then they added Fergie. They went a lot. They went far. Blah blah blah. So I had no idea that that's where Fergie came from because I remember
Mark Williams also criticizes Stacey Ferguson Fergie from Black Eyed Peas on that show. I had no idea she was on Kids Incorporated. That blows my mind.
I had no idea.
Derek also mentions Martika. So Martika, she also had some other acting jobs. She did go in to try and do solo singing. She had a song called Toy Soldiers. Inch by inch, heart to heart.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
They all fall down like toy soldiers.
Don't do that, please.
That was a song by Martika, and she was on Kids Incorporated. That's where she got her start.
I never watched that.
You're making up these shows now. Killmonger is so young, he doesn't believe that these shows are.
Killmonger is like 24, 25 years old. All this stuff happened before your mother was probably born. So just
the thing you have to understand, Killmonger, is before the internet, what we had to entertain ourselves was the television.
Yep.
So we had a lot of television shows that we watched in our youth.
Yep.
This is how we entertained ourselves.
Yep.
Other than going out and drinking water out of garden hoses and riding our bicycles into places we probably shouldn't have.
H&H, where are you from? I'm curious because I've never heard of
Derek lives in North Carolina.
Okay. I don't remember.
I saw a lot of Menudo because it played between the Saturday morning TV shows like Kids Incorporated. Yeah.
No idea.
Juan Williams says the man, the machine, Street Hawk. Yes. Street Hawk was a show. Check it out on streaming services, man. Street Hawk was that show. I might watch an episode this weekend just to refresh myself. I never watched it. You missed out, dude. Y'all remember Hardcastle and McCormick? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Please tell me you remember Hardcastle and McCormick.
Yes. Next thing you know, you're gonna start mentioning Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Look, we're not gonna go down this whole rabbit hole of 1970s, 80s show because Hardcastle McCormick has nothing to do with sci-fi. It has nothing to do with anime.
Hardcastle McCormick had that car. We're talking about cars. We're talking about vehicles in the 80s were like the source of these shows, or the characters in these shows. On Hardcastle McCormick, they had this car called the Coyote. It was like, so the premise of the show was this. You had this old judge who
I remember the show.
Had a lot of money. He had a lot of money from being a judge for many years. I don't know why he accumulated so much money, but he retired. But he was always bitter over the fact that there were certain cases that he adjudicated that were sort of unsolved crimes, and he wanted to solve the crimes of those unsolved cases where various people came before him and they weren't able to get convicted because of some loophole. Technicality. Like the law. And he knew they were guilty. He knew they were guilty, but because we have our system, the juries let the person go. So he comes across this criminal who is a race car driver, McCormick. And McCormick gets placed, one of his last acts on the bench is to put him on probation, where he basically says, you're going to work for me and you're going to help me solve crimes. These various cases that I know they were guilty, we're going to solve these crimes. And the judge's name is Hardcastle. And this race car driver, who I don't remember what his crime was, but he still owned this really hot car, but he was down on his luck. He had no money, anything like that. And so he went to go live with the judge at his house, but he still owned. The only thing he had left in his possession was this really sophisticated prototype race car called the Coyote. And
Yeah.
they would just go out and solve crimes, all these cold cases, and that was the premise of the show.
Hardcastle was played by Brian Keith. What might some people remember him from? He had a series back in the 50s. I'm gonna have to look that up. But he actually committed suicide back in '97.
Oh my god,
Um,
the series from the 1950s was with the two kids. What was it called? Oh, the series with the two kids.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll tell you what it is here in a moment. But
Yeah,
Brian Keith died in 1997 at 75 after committing suicide, and the show was. I'm gonna have to
please
pull it
tell
up.
me it's going to bother me for the rest of the night.
Yeah. I'm gonna get it. Where's my other phone?
He was the uncle, and he basically
Right,
these two kids.
right,
Their
right,
parents died, and he inherited these two kids.
right.
He was like a bachelor, and all of a sudden,
Right.
his
Hold on.
siblings
Okay,
died,
hold
and
on.
he
I haven't
inherited
signed
their
it.
children.
He was in a movie called The Parent Trap.
He was in the Parent Trap too. I remember that.
Let's see. Hold on one second. Because I remember what you're talking about.
I remember the boy's name was Jamie.
1993, 88, 81.
You
Hold
keep
on.
me in suspense right now. People are like, "Why do
Yeah,
these guys
right.
talking about this?"
Hold on.
But I can't let stuff like this go when it's on the tip of
Right.
my tongue.
Hold on. Give me a second.
Family Jewels, Family Matters.
No, hold on. No.
It was Family something.
He was the Virginian.
Like I'm looking at the main introduction title music, and it had like jewelry and stuff.
Right. Hold on. I'll tell you.
It was Family something.
So, okay, that's going back too far. So it's going to be the 60s. Because I remember the kid. He was a ginger, and as I've said earlier, gingers are
And
evil.
his name was Jamie.
Right. Hold on.
Jamie and Jody. Jamie and Jody were the names of the two kids.
Parent Trap, Frontier Circus, Outlaws, Folsom, Target,
God
Alpha
damn it. That's
Team.
gonna bother me the rest of the night. And if you don't tell me the
No.
name of that damn,
I'm gonna get it. The
it's
Raiders.
taking me too friggin' long to Google.
Greg first, LA.
Let me see if someone else.
Coming.
Jeffrey Thorne told us the name. Family Affair.
Family Affair. There it is. He was Uncle Bill Davis. Yes. Family Affair that lasted from 1966 to 1971. And one of the actors who was one of the kids was a ginger by the name of
And
Johnny
he was
Whitaker.
also, if I'm not mistaken, he was also on what's that same kid in oh crap.
Hold on.
He was in something else of significance.
Yeah. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. That's where he came from.
In the 1970s.
He was in
Sigmund and the Sea Monsters.
Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Yep.
Yep.
That's
Wow.
where you know it from.
That takes me back.
Yep.
Family Affair.
Yep. That's it. Family Affair. That is it.
A lot of good television, this kids.
Hardcastle and McCormick.
Sonny and Tubbs must be the top 10 of cool TV characters.
For
Maybe
those who
Brumman,
don't know, there was a show back in the 1980s called Miami Vice. There was a movie made back in the 2000s with
it hurts my heart that you actually have to explain the concept of what Miami
and
Vice
James
is.
Fox. That was based on the 1980s TV show. Crockett and Tubbs were Miami cops who were supposedly undercover, but Crockett, the white dude, Don Johnson, drove this very unique car that would always be parked out in front of the cop station. So how he was quote unquote undercover is beyond me. But yes, Crockett and Tubbs are top 10 as far as coolest TV characters ever. Yes.
Yeah, Crockett, I agree. Crockett and Tubbs in the 1980s were the coolest. First of all, Miami Vice is my favorite cop show of all time. I'm trying to think of any others. Yes, clearly, Miami Vice is my favorite cop show of all time. Um, I can honestly, Mark and I both went to University of Miami for law school, and I can honestly say that my love for Miami Vice played a part in my decision to go to University of Miami because I just love that show. It made me fall in love with Miami, even though it was like this drug cocaine filled party town type of image where you seem like you're about to get shot on every corner of the street. It's not like that, by the way. Not anymore, anyway. Um, but yeah, that was a dynamic show, man. That was a groundbreaking show.
It was.
No show had ever been done like that before. Where they're trying to make an MTV. They basically the premise of the show was MTV Cops.
And here's what's
MTV had just been created just a couple years before that show began. This show was in 1984. MTV started just a few years
started like
before that.
81, 82, roughly.
And the idea was that they were going to incorporate the music of MTV and the look of music videos, which was kind of blowing up at this point. They're going to incorporate basically every episode is like music videos.
Right.
To make it a very stylistic looking show.
And what
The
you have to
music was very
understand is
important.
that particular television show affected the fashion of America in the 80s
Yes.
because
Everyone
understand
dressed like people from Miami Vice
right.
back then.
So Don Johnson, aka Big Daddy from Django, his
Wow.
character was Sonny Crockett, who was this undercover cop. He always
He was a
wore
former University of Florida football player.
right. So this dude would wear these suits that weren't suits. He would wear these jackets and these pants that were very free
They were
flowing, but in
crushed
pastel
linen. They
colored
were crushed linen
t-shirts
suits.
with linen suits with pastel colored shirts and espadrille shoes, right?
With no
If
socks.
those of you who were
Can't wear
around
socks.
in that time, hold on. For those of you who were around during that time, I'm talking to you specifically, Jeffrey Thorne. You remember the American Male catalog. The American Mail catalog was a catalog that would come out literally in the mail where you could order clothes from. And you would have espadrilles. They were these slip on shoes that were made out of like cloth or whatever, but that's the way that he would dress. And everybody in the 80s dressed like that. If you want to get an idea of what I'm talking about, watch the phenomenal show called Black Monday that stars Don Cheadle and Regina, not King, but the other Regina, from Scary Movie. Regina, she was in Honk If You Love Jesus. Help me out. Do you know what I'm talking? Do you remember her name?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, that aside, look up Miami Vice while we're talking. Right. So that's how people dressed in the 80s. If you want to watch an 80s show, you will see people dressed like Don Johnson. And by that I mean like big oversized coat and pants with some type of pastel colored shirt. Just scroll down.
Padded shoulders.
Yep. Scroll down.
T-shirt.
Yep.
His partner Tubbs always wore double-breasted suits
With a tie.
because these guys were undercover drug dealers. Yeah, that was their cover. It was that they were drug smugglers, I should say.
But they always stood out, especially Don Johnson's car. He had two big cars.
He had two cars. The first one was a Ferrari Daytona Spider, which is a very unique car. They made it like 1 year, they never made it again. The Ferrari Daytona Spider. The second car that he had, the Spider got blown up in like the second season. The second car that he had for the rest of the series was a white Ferrari Testarossa. Which was actually, they took a Testarossa body and put it on a kit of a Corvette to save cost because they couldn't afford Testarossa.
Right.
But these two guys, they had on-screen chemistry.
Yeah.
You know, they truly looked like the two coolest guys in every room that they were in.
Yeah.
And they stole scenes whenever they were just they had chemistry, these
They
two
were just
guys.
cool.
They were
So
just
let me ask you
ridiculously
this.
cool.
Would the page have some type of copyright infringement if you played the song that everybody knows?
Can't do it. Can't do it. Can't do it.
Oh my god. Yeah. So
Let me talk about
basically,
songs. So here's the other thing. Remember, I told you the show was the MTV Police, is what they called it, right? This show in its first season had an album, a soundtrack album that like went on the top of the Billboard charts. The soundtrack for this television show because it had a lot of Glenn Fry, Jan Hammer, a whole bunch of artists were on this original soundtrack for the first season, and that soundtrack was at the top of the Billboard charts. The songs were so great. It was one of the first cassette tapes I ever owned as a kid.
now
Was the
what you're
Miami
not
Vice
understanding
soundtrack album.
is there was a particular episode where what's my
This
man's
right
name?
here
Phil
is
Collins.
the
Phil
Daytona, by the
Collins.
way.
Yeah, that's the car. So Phil Collins, who was part of a
Phil
group, was it
Collins,
Genesis?
yes.
Phil Collins was part of Genesis, right?
Yes.
Okay. So there was an old, there was an old band called Genesis. Phil Collins was the drummer. He had a song called was it In the Heat of the Night? Um
Tonight's the night.
in the air tonight. In the air tonight?
In the air. Oh my God.
You're right. So there is this drum breakdown in that song that is one of the best instrumental parts ever. And I cannot overemphasize enough how cool that song was, how impactful it was to
Okay.
the American zeitgeist, right? I guess
The other thing Mark is failing to mention, the song In the Air Tonight, because this is 1984. And I know you guys are probably like, why are these guys going on about this? Understand.
because we're
As
drunk.
I mentioned before, Mark and I both went to the University of Miami for law school. In 1984, which is when the show premiered, it was filmed in Miami.
Yep.
At that time, the University of Miami was on the upsurge of beginning its football dynasty in college football. We won our first national championship in 1984, the same year Miami Vice premiered. And
Oh, wow.
the song that was in the first pilot episode that was part of this Miami Vice soundtrack that was on the Billboard charts I talked about was In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. It was a very popular song on the airwaves, in large part because of the show. That song became a staple song for the University of Miami's football games that they would specifically play at their night games that were on primetime television, which began their dynasty. If you played that song in the Miami Orange Bowl in the 1980s and early 90s, and you played against the University of Miami in the Orange Bowl, and that song came on, it would strike fear into you as a football team because the entire city of Miami would sing that song, get amped up, the team would get amped up, and you were guaranteed to lose. I'm not
So
making this stuff up.
so if you're
Look up
watching
the
this, I
record.
just posted the video in the chat. It was a phenomenal song. It was a phenomenal time period for, culture, for just life as an example. So check the chat. I just posted it.
This is
Yeah.
the second
Plenty
car
of
they had, the Ferrari Testarossa.
right, right, right. So anyway, let's
God, I love
let's
this
go
show.
more to the chats. Let's go to the chats.
Sorry, I went on a divergent right there.
Yeah.
Street Hawk, Knight Rider, and Airwolf were the trifecta. Yes, they were.
Yep.
New Zealand, that was where the Action Pack was filmed. He played a C. I don't know what that means. William Shatner's Tech War.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
Carl Urban played
Caesar.
Caesar in Xena. Is that what he played? Okay.
Yep. Not BJ and the
Something
Bear.
about
Yep.
BJ in the Bear.
Yep. I remember that.
Thorne said he had to go.
Thanks for joining us as always.
Marwan Williams, Time Tracks was another cool future cop show. Wow.
No independent
That
recollection.
was like 89, maybe 90. Time Tracks was a time travel show where a cop gets sent back in time and solve crimes or fix time or whatever.
No independent recollection of that.
Remember the Misfits
I
of
do.
Science?
Yes, I do.
Jeez.
I want to say Courtney Cox from Friends was in
Yes,
that.
you're correct. Courtney Cox was on that show.
And as
And
well as the
the
dude
black
who was
guy
the
on the
body
show,
guy for Harry and the Hendersons, the big tall black guy. I think he was in that as well.
he was.
Yep.
Automan, we talked about that.
Of course, we talked about that. Paul singing. Right. That should be crying emojis, not laughing emojis. PBS.
Yes. Remember Cagney and Lacey?
He's joking, of course. Of course. Classic.
Party
was.
Classic. Remember Manimal?
Of course. Yes, we do.
It only lasted 6 episodes. I don't remember that.
Wow. So basically, the guy who plays Isaiah Bradley in the MCU was Manimal. What's the actor's name?
No. You're thinking of a different show.
I'm thinking of
Manimal.
Manimal
was Animal Man from DC Comics.
Yes.
He was a guy who could emulate the attributes of various.
Right. You're right.
You're thinking of Mantis.
Right, that's what I said. Yes, I do remember Manimal, but I not very much. But yes.
Yeah, Manimal is a shapeshifter. Jeffrey Thorne says Family Affair. H&H says Bird Forever. I remember when Manimal would change the animal. They would show a close up of the back of his hand was bubbling.
Yep.
Yeah, it seemed like a very painful process. Like I wouldn't want to change into animal flesh.
And it took forever for him to change.
Yeah. He's asking what whiskey bourbon and drink. I'm drinking Glenlivet 14,
which is owned by white folks, whereas I'm drinking St. Cloud, which is owned by us colored folks, and it's very, very
with
good.
Nothing but white folk in his advertising.
Yeah, nothing but white folks on his website, which I don't understand. But yeah.
Which means he doesn't trust any of us. All right, that's fine.
You said it, I didn't. Family Affair went there.
Mr. French was the butler on Family Affair.
On McCormick. Yep.
No. On the Family Affair, Mr. French was the butler.
Right. Yes. You're right. That's correct.
He was really trying to convey to us his Family Affair. Sigmund and the Sea Monster.
That's the kid from. Yeah, he sure did.
Jay Welk says Miami Vice was epic.
It was. Big Booty Trudy. Yep.
All right. The music was incredible. A lot of actors got their start on Miami Vice.
Al Bundy was on there. Bruce Willis was on there. A lot of folks one of the things that's interesting is watching an old show and seeing somebody who ultimately became famous playing just a minor character in that show. So yeah,
right.
Willis is one of the individuals.
It really did.
Miami Vice.
No socks on Miami Vice.
Yeah, That's right.
Yeah, those Miami Vice.
No, you weren't. I've seen the pictures, bro. No, you weren't.
Regina Hall.
Thank you. Regina Hall who is a beautiful woman who played in The Best Man. She was also in Honk, If You Love Jesus, which is a phenomenal show, a phenomenal movie. If you have not seen it, highly recommend.
That's the one with Sterling K. Brown, right?
That is correct. Why don't you do a couple of commercials real quick, and then I'll be right back.
Okay. Tubbs and Crockett had a scene where in the air tonight, Phil Collins is playing that scene as Thomas. Yes, it is.
Epic. One of the top 10 television scenes ever. Not shows, whatever, but scenes. That scene.
Well, hold on, Mark. We're almost done with all the comments. Then you can go to commercial break. I had those in Miami Vice. It was that's not what it was. It was We Belong to the City by Glenn Frey. God, that was a great song.
Is he still alive?
Episode is where they are going after Calderon, who killed Tubbs' brother. God, I love that show.
You have no
idea how much I love Miami Vice. He was sent back in time to send criminals back to the future. That was Time Cop. Hype style. If we're reminiscing on 80s television, does anybody remember Tales from the Dark Side Monsters and Friday the 13th, the series. I dug watching those shows while they were on the air. I do remember those shows. I don't think I watched those shows.
The name sound familiar, but I can't say that I ever watched them.
And finally, Quantum Leap was a great show.
Yep, with Scott Bakula.
Scott Bakula.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna go to commercial break. Then we're gonna go into our other. Damn, God, we're 2 hours in. We spent like an whole hour.
We spent like an hour reminiscing of shit that we watched when we were kids.
Wow. All right, so we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and then we're gonna get into our reads of the week.
Yeah.
We'll do a couple commercials if I can find them, because Dr. Wizard hides all this stuff, so I can't find them. So I'm stalling for time as I'm talking to you right now as I try to find the commercials that are supposed to be fairly.
Make sure that if you're not already subscribed, if you have not already hit the like and subscribe button.
Thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. Please hit the like and subscribe button, share the video, and definitely subscribe to the channel.
What's good, Comic Fam? I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with Concrete Comics, and I'm also pretty sure you guys are familiar with Freestyle Comics. Well, what if I told you they were partnering together and give you guys an amazing promo code? So listen, here's the deal. You go to any one of these websites, you're gonna save 20% off by using this promo code. Now, if you spend more than $50, you're gonna get free shipping. You can't beat this. And when I talk to you about industry standard or better storylines and art, I mean, you're really not beating Freestyle Comics, and you're definitely not beating Concrete Comics. Listen, this is not a sponsorship. I've literally read all of these books, and they're fire. So stop crying and start buying. Concrete Comics, Freestyle Comics, joining forces. Make sure you use this promo code. You're gonna get 20% off. You spend more than $50, you're gonna get free shipping. We out.
Shout out to the Black Comic Lords for having me on the show, and also for being true believers in every aspect of comic books and nerd culture.
I'm Eve Ewing, and this is the Black Comic Lords.
Hello, this is Larry Fuller, the creator of Evan, with a shout out to the fine folks at Black Comic Lords. Keep up the good work.
Hey, y'all know it's me. This is OMG, and this is Black Comic Lords.
Black Comic Lords.
Yo, Black Comic Lords.
Black Comic Lords.
Black Comic Lords with your boy Lonzo Starr. Check in.
You're here with the Black Comic Lords.
You're here with the Black Comic Lords. Stay demented.
I am Professor John Jennings, and I'm a Black Comics Lord.
Black Comic Lords for life. Let's go. BCL for life, baby.
Black Comic Lords.
Black Comic Lords. Follow.
Subscribe now. Yeah.
Hey, this is Jeff Carroll. I'm out here at the Black Comic Book Fest in Harlem, sharing my books and works with the Black Comic Lords. And one of the books that I have just came out is Fingernails, Book 2. It's a paranormal investigator thing, Scooby-Doo. And it's a girl that changes into a gargoyle. And she shows that all ghosts aren't bad. So she takes on different ghosts. In this one, she's dealing with ghosts in the projects. So I have a variety of titles. I have the Harlem, the Horror Shake series, which I've explored different short fiction stories. And what I do have coming out is in August. This will be in previews in in July. The Last Negro takes place in a post-apocalyptic New York City, manga style, inspired by the series, the movie Akira. So please check me out. This is going to be in comic book stores. My name is Jeff Carroll. You can check me online, Instagram, or Facebook. Nice to meet you. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I played that last commercial because Jeff Carroll's Last Harlemite is up for pre-order right now. So check with your LCS and definitely put that on your pre-order pulls. Last Harlemite.
Perfect.
So now we're going to get into our reads of the week.
Now, personally, I didn't have anything that was Black centric. I know Paul has a lot of books that he picked up this week. The only books that I picked up this week, it was a very light week for me. These are the only ones that I got, right? Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm sorry. I made how do we do this? So
X-Men
Spider-Man,
35.
Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, and X-Men. None of these were necessarily Black centered, but these are the only books that I picked up this week. I know that Paul had several that he wanted to discuss. So, floor is yours.
It was kind of a light week for Marvel and DC. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we've been at this for a while now, but there are several books that I thought really deserve note. No particular order. First book, Beyond the Pale. Now, this book is about this news reporter. It takes place in Vietnam. All right, the Vietnam War. The woman you see on the cover is a news reporter by the name of Hattie something. I forget her name. It's Hattie something. And she is investigating. She basically spent a lot of time doing stories on the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement back in the United States. So she decided to, look, I'm going to try and get the other side of the story by actually going to Vietnam and checking out what's going on over there. But she also has an ulterior motive. She wants to investigate disappearances of African-American soldiers in very disproportionate numbers. Artwork is pretty decent. The story is pretty cool. So you have this African-American journalist who's in Vietnam trying to investigate why so many disproportionate levels of African-American soldiers are disappearing from this particular fire base called Fire Base Tartarus in Vietnam. And as it turns out, without giving any spoilers, there's a bit of a supernatural element as to why these soldiers disappearing. There's kind of like these supernatural creatures or demons in Vietnam that are causing these soldiers to disappear. In the first issue, you don't find out why, but you definitely find out that there's a supernatural element as to why these soldiers are disappearing in Vietnam.
So that's
it's actually a really good read.
Okay.
Who
are the creators behind the book?
That's what I'm gonna say. Is that it's actually not made by Black creators. Let me pull up the list here. Here's the book.
But the protagonist is a Black woman.
The protagonist is a Black woman. Here's the creators. None of them I could tell. I don't know if Christopher Emgard or Thomas Ira are Black, but I don't think so. Regardless, the protagonist of the story is Black. The investigation of what she's doing is these Black characters. I will say this with regard to this book. If she was not Black and she was simply doing an investigation on soldiers disappearing from this fire base, any soldiers, not just Black soldiers, it would not have made a difference in the story. The fact that she's Black is not really the driving force of the story per se. So it's cool that she is Black and she's in there for representation's sake, but it's not a driving part of the story. I think if this maybe had been written maybe by Black writers, maybe it might have had more color or flavor in that respect, but it's not a driving force. It doesn't detract from the story though. It's an excellent story. I definitely want to read the rest of the series. I think it's maybe 3 issues, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull up the page here. I think it goes to, here's issue 2. And here's issue 3. Here's issue 4. So it's a 4-issue series. All these are up for pre-order. You can still pre-order these issues.
You know,
Next
having
up,
seen absolutely nothing about this book, it reminds me of Nita Hawes' Nightmare Blog.
I guess if Nita Hawes' Nightmare Blog took place in Vietnam, then yes, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. And the reason why I say that, it has a black
Next up is another
protagonist.
book.
It has a black protagonist who's dealing with the supernatural, so that's why I automatically thought of Rodney Barnes' Nita Hawes' Nightmare Blog, which is a very good read.
Where is this book? Heart Piercer. It's not even on this list. That's weird. Give me 1 second. Let me put this up so you guys can see it.
While he's doing that, once again, a reminder, if you have not done so, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. So that way you will know when we do these videos on Fridays and anything else that the Black Comic Lords put out during the week.
All right, so here's the next issue. These are just ones I went into my LCS and I just saw it on the shelf. I was like, let me go pick this up and try it out. This book is called Heart Piercer. Now, Mark, you might appreciate this because I know you're a big sword and sandals type story. You like fantasy books and stuff like that. This woman, Heart Piercer, that's her name, that's her nickname, is a warrior woman. She starts the book off trying to kill a unicorn to get its horn.
That's not nice.
In the story. She's trying to do this for her lover, who is, for all intents and purposes, kind of a demon warrior type guy, who she's trying to impress and satisfy or what have you by obtaining this unicorn horn. And she's like, all right, well, I've done what you wanted me to do, my love. I have obtained the unicorn horn for you to do whatever you wanted to do with. Now we can get married and have kids and what have you. And he's like, not so fast. Boom. I'm not feeling you like that. And he stabs her with the unicorn horn, which is supposed to be magical in nature. She then falls into the river below, very much like, T'Challa and Killmonger, where he throws her off the falls. But when she emerges from the river, he assumes she's dead. When she emerges from the river, she notices that she has superpowers. Her strength is enhanced, her stamina is enhanced, her speed is enhanced. And she, as I said, she realizes she has superpowers, and she decides to try and seek her revenge. And she comes across some other people, helps them out, and says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and become a, whatever she's going to do next. It's a swords and sandals story. If you like fantasy, you'll like it. The artwork is actually pretty dope. Just to give you some view on it. The artwork is pretty good. Really, really good, to be honest with you. Not quite on the level of Crescent City Monsters, but pretty freaking good. So I recommend it. I've already pre-ordered the next few issues of this book. I'm digging it. I'm digging the premise. And the artwork is fantastic. So Heart Piercer by Dark Horse Comics. Recommend this book.
Take your word for it. What's the next one?
Next one is, let's see. This book right here called Profane.
Now, this book was in my local comic book store. I saw the cover. The cover that I saw was not that one. I don't know what different covers there are, but it had a black person on it, and I asked my
Probably
local
this one.
comic book. No, it wasn't that one either. I don't think.
This one?
No,
This one?
no, no. So
That's all
it
of them.
must
That's all the
it must
covers.
have been that one then. Yes, it was okay. Yeah, it was that one. So obviously, the character around the nose of that silhouette is apparently a black person. So when I went to my LCS on Wednesday, I asked my comic book guy, I'm like, hey, do you know anything about this? He hadn't read it yet. So I put it in my box. This cover right here, I don't know if it's the A, B, or C cover, is phenomenal because you have two prominent black men on it. Had I seen this cover, I probably would have bought it automatically. But it's in my box. I am interested in seeing what it's about. If anyone has read it or knows about it, I'm interested to hear what he has to say. But I really, really like this cover.
It is not a bad story. Here's the artwork. Decent artwork. It reminds me of Walter Mosley's Devil in the Blue Dress novels. It's a crime noir story set in, I don't remember what city it is, but it reminds you of Los Angeles. Black detective trying to solve a crime, right? But there's a twist in this story. And it's a little bit of a spoiler.
No spoilers, no spoilers, no spoilers.
It's a minor spoiler. At the end of the day, I thought originally, as I first read the first few pages, because it's such a crime noir story, I assumed it was kind of in the same realm as Devil in the Blue Dress, which takes place in like the 1940s or 50s, what have you. It actually takes place in modern times. But you could juxtapose this with 1950s, it would make a difference. If he hadn't made a reference to cell phones, I never would have realized this takes place in modern times. He's investigating a crime involving a writer of a crime novel. And he ultimately realizes that the character in the novel has his same name. And this particular guy, he's like, I can't remember my past. It's a mystery. He doesn't remember his past. All he knows is that he has crime investigation skills and he's a private eye. He doesn't know how he has these skills. He doesn't remember his past, but he's investigating this crime and it's involving a writer, and the chief character in the novel has his same name. And there's a major twist at the end as to why the chief character in the novel of that's written by the novel by the person he's trying to figure out why this person was killed has his same name. It's a major twist. That was kind of cool. So Profane, definitely a good read. I enjoyed it tremendously. Artwork is okay. I recommend it.
Perfect.
Next book by Advent Comics, Titan, the Ultraman, #3. Now, let me tell you something. We have interviewed Tony Cottrell, creator, writer in Advent Comics, owner of Advent Comics, writer of this issue. This is their Superman, is Ultraman. Some of the dialogue is a little comic booky. That would probably be my one criticism. It's very comic booky dialogue, like you'd expect to see. It kind of reminds you of the 1970s or something. But what strikes you out, what puts this book above all the rest, quite honestly, is the artwork. This artwork is second to none. Look at this.
That dude looks like Frozone.
Say again?
That dude looks like Frozone.
He's a jacked up Frozone if he's Frozone. This artwork is phenomenal. The colors pop off the page. Pencil work, ink work, excellent. This is as good, and I would honestly say better than what you'd find in the big two in terms of artwork. This is fantastic artwork. Absolutely fantastic artwork. Really pops off the page. The storyline of this whole issue is a big brawl. It is a battle between Ultraman and the group called something. Geez, what were they called again? The bad guys. Fight Club. Fight Club versus Ultraman. So this group versus Ultraman. This whole issue is a big brawl between Ultraman and these guys. It is just nonstop action, just a big battle. Recommend this book. Definitely recommend that book. My final books. I don't want you guys to judge me on this, okay? You got to promise me you're not going to judge me on this. But I went ahead and got Space Negro, The Last Negro. I actually spent my money on this. I don't know what to tell you on this. I'm trying to maintain an open mind on this book. It's a comedy book. Let's start with that. Do not try to find deep, meaningful storyline in this book. It's not that. It is clearly, unabashedly, a parody and satire book. Okay? Okay. That being said, how can I liken this? You know how Quentin Tarantino got criticized in Jackie Brown for using the N-word like a lot? Mark? This has a lot of the N-word to the point that I would say it almost becomes distracting.
Yep. So then, based on that, I have no interest in that book whatsoever.
Yeah. The concept is that you have this black man working for, you know, the character Eternity in the Marvel Universe, the godlike character
The
Eternity,
embodiment of everything. Yep.
the embodiment of everything universe. He goes to work for Eternity. There's no other black people left in the universe, and he knows it. And he's the entire universe seems to be racist. Every comment from every person he encounters as the last black man is just racial undertones to it. It's funny for the first few pages, but for the whole issue, it becomes yeah, it just becomes a bit much.
Yeah, no,
I would like to think that for me, as a sci-fi fan of that genre, fan of that genre of sci-fi, part of why I like sci-fi is when you're doing speculative fiction about the future, racism isn't as much of an issue because you're talking about the future where racism isn't really a factor. The idea that this man can be the last Negro in the universe and he goes out into space, and the whole universe still treats him like a nigga is, I don't think that's cool. it's funny, as I said, it's funny for the first few pages, but then when you think about the larger implications of it, it's like you really don't want to think that the whole universe is just racist, which is what this book kind of conveys. And it gets a bit exhausting for me. I'm just my personal opinion. Other people may not have as much of a problem with it. It's pure satire. If you try to view it as more than satire, you're really going to be offended. If you view it as pure satire, you may enjoy it. But it's just, for me personally, it's not my cup of tea. So those were my reads of the week.
So next is what's coming up next week. And one of the main things that's coming up next week is Akugan, which comes out on the 12th, which is Paul's birthday. And hopefully we will be having the writers and creators
Why do you keep
behind
saying hopefully?
Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
I suppose if I'm going to be negative.
Just being realistic. So it's our hope that we will have the creators behind the Akugan series on for you guys next Friday. Issue 2 drops on the 12th. Issue 1 came out last month. It was pretty good. Looking very forward to issue number 2.
Yeah, Mirewa Ayodele and Dota Nakande. Hopefully, we'll have both of them here a week from today to discuss Akugan, Brutalizer of the Gods, issue number 2, which comes out on my birthday, June 12th, this coming Wednesday. Yes, I will accept birthday presents if you wish to send one to me. I won't say no. So we'll have the first opportunity to talk to them about the book. And as an aside, Mirewa Ayodele is also been named as the new writer of the upcoming Storm series.
So make sure that you have that on your pull list.
Yeah.
Yep.
Certainly.
What else we got?
In terms of what's coming out next week?
Yep.
Give me a second.
While he's trying to figure out that, once again, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons so you can know whenever we do during our lives. Typically, Wakanda Whiskey and Blurredom happens between 9 and 9:30 p.m. on Friday evenings.
So I said we have Akugan. There's several covers. I can click on it and just show you the covers. This is cover A. This is cover 2B, Gray Williamson cover. Akugan fights monsters. It's a big theme of the story. This is the Juni Ba cover. I like this one. I'm trying to track this one down. This is the 1 in 10 incentive variant cover by Jeffrey, I can't pronounce his last name, Oyega, something like that. But this, if anybody knows what store I can get this cover from, please let me know, because I'd like to get this cover.
So basically, at the end of the day, Akugan number 2, make sure you pick it up next Wednesday. What next we have?
Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt number 2. Misty Knight has a prominent role in this series. It actually wasn't bad as a tie-in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to limit my Blood Hunt series because I'm not much for crossovers. They're a big money grab. But the story in this one was actually not bad.
And she was in issue number 1. I think we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to specifically mention Amazing Spider-Man number 1 tie into Blood Hunt because she herself was actually in it.
Right.
What else do we have? What's coming up next week?
And we also have Avengers 15. Now, because half the Avengers were taken out, killed, made vampires, whatever, in the Blood Hunt series, Steve Rogers forms a new Avengers team. Here's a better view of the team. Hawkeye, Hercules, Hazmat, Steve Rogers on the same team. Now, here's also a better cover by Scotty Young with T'Challa on it. which I'm definitely going to order this. I think I ordered this one. It was also announced recently. I'm sorry I don't have the picture because I didn't queue it up. That there's going to be a new Avengers team coming in the next few months. The new team is going to also include not only Hercules, but it's also going to have Hawkeye, and who I hate, and Photon, Monica Rambeau, and Night Thrasher is going to join the Avengers. He's never joined the Avengers before, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Because the Night Thrasher run we just got was trash.
Yep.
And I shouldn't say that on the live, but I didn't like it.
Trash.
But to have him on the Avengers title, I don't know who the writer of the title is going to be. I don't know if Jed McKay is going to still be writing Avengers.
Nope.
If he is, that would be phenomenal to have him write Night Thrasher. But Night Thrasher is going to be an Avenger on the same team as Monica Rambeau. And I think it's still kind of tied into Blood Hunt, if I'm not mistaken, or the tail end of the Blood Hunt.
No idea.
Which kind of answers the question: the number one vampire killer in the world is Monica Rambeau. Why isn't she in Blood Hunt? Because I guess it would all end in like one issue, but
right.
It is what it is.
So what's coming up next? So other than that, what else next? Is that it?
Hold on, we still got some more here.
Let's not do too
We
much.
also have Blood Hunt number 3.
Yep, looking forward to that.
You have these 3 covers here for that. This picture with Captain Falcon isn't half bad. That's a nice picture. Kale New variant.
Yep. Okay. What else?
Deadpool cover by Torrin Clark, written by our boy Cody Ziegler.
Don't read that.
The next issue of Heart Piercer, which I just told you about, issue number 2 comes out this coming week. I dig the book. I think it was kind of cool. If you're a fan of sword and sandals fantasy, like Conan the Barbarian or Xena the Warrior Princess, you'll dig Heart Piercer. Incredible Hulk 13. Now, the reason I pulled this one is because the Hulk has been turned into the spirit realm by Dr. Voodoo, who makes an appearance in this book. Miles Morales, 21, has 3 covers. I think this is the final issue or penultimate issue for Red Hood and the Hill, written by Sean Martinborough. This has been a fantastic series, art by Sanford Green of Bitterroot fame. So I think this is second to the last issue of that. Strange Academy has a Blood Hunt tie-in. This is the second issue for that. Here's the 2 covers I recommend on that. Suicide Squad Dream Team with Amanda Waller. This has been a dope book. Mark, are you reading this one?
Of course, yes.
This has been a dope book. This has been a good Suicide Squad book.
The reason why I like that book specifically is because Amanda Waller, who is a Black female character who has absolutely no superpowers or abilities whatsoever, who's nothing but a bureaucrat, basically controls the DC universe. She goes face to face, toe to toe with people who could literally demolish her in an instant, but she never backs down. She never shows any fear or any concern about her own safety. A lot of people may not like the character because they may view her as evil, but everything that she does is in servants to protection of the American people. So, yeah, huge fan of Amanda Waller, huge fan of this series, Suicide Squad. Let's go ahead and kind of.
I'm going to get this particular cover because this one has her nephew, Archie Waller, also known as Deadeye.
Right.
So he's a new character created by, I want to say Chuck Brown and Aletha Martinez, if I'm not mistaken. 2 Black creators created this character, who's also a Black character. So I dig that.
All right. So let's go. We've been at this now for going on, believe it or not, 3 hours. I'm fading fast. So let's go ahead and get to what you're watching.
Hold on, let's go through these comments real quick.
Yeah, real quick.
It's talking about Miami Vice. Calderon's son later ended up killing Tubbs' son, his own sister Angelina.
No, I didn't.
Love Miami Vice.
You mentioned
Juan
that
Williams says,
before.
he was sent back in time to send criminals back to the future. Hype Style says, if we're
You mentioned
reminiscing
that.
on
You
80s
mentioned that
television,
already. Been there.
yeah, we saw that one already. We got a super chat from
33 and a third. Media.
DJ Big Phil. So thank you for that, sir. And I can't find the super chat video. Here we go. No.
Donation. It's a donation. I thought it was the trash. Don't be hitting on me.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate that, Phil. Eye of the Watcher says, I think it's 3. Jay Wills agree about Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
Easy Rawlings is one of my favorite detectives.
That's
If you like Easy Rawlings, you will literally like this Profane book. It's the same book.
So basically, the Easy Rawlins character should have had a series of movies that starred Denzel Washington. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I actually tweeted a few days ago, or a couple of weeks ago, that they could reboot that series with Luke James as the Easy Rawlins character without missing a beat. All right, go ahead.
Was it written by a black writer? It was not written by a black writer.
No.
Yeah. Peace to the gods.
Shout out to Riffle One.
Eye of the Watcher, Space Negro is created by Jared Sams. He is black. Yes, I know.
No interest in it.
Look, if a white person wrote that book, I'd be very offended.
Yeah.
Hype Style things. All right, so that's all our comments.
All right. So what you're watching, the only thing this week that I've watched that was somewhat black centric is the Acolyte, which is a Star Wars story. The Star Wars story Acolyte is set basically about 150 years in the past before A New Hope drops. Basically, there's an actress who's playing twins, one of whom is seeking revenge
Amanda
against the
Stenberg.
Jedi. I'm sorry, Amanda Seberg.
Amanda Stenberg.
Who was Rue in the Hunger Games series.
She was also in that movie. Oh wow, The Hate You Give, which you got a lot of.
Yes. That was a very good movie. But
and as an aside, because this is Wakanda Whiskey and Blurredom, she's an excellent actress. She's a phenomenal actress.
Yes.
Very talented.
Yep.
She was actually the original pick to play Shuri in the Black Panther movie.
Interesting.
Now, what happened is when she found out the concept of Black Panther was supposed to be a country that had been uncolonized and unconquered by Europeans, she being, I think she's biracial. She's like, I'm too light-skinned and biracial. This should go to an actress that sort of more represents that. She was originally their first pick to play Shuri. She stepped down from the role, which is why Letitia Wright got the role.
Now, let me say this.
She was the original pick.
Let me just jump in here. More actors and actresses should do that very thing. There's a guy who played the original Dario Naharis in Game of Thrones. He also was in the Transporter movie. I can't remember he was Ajax in Deadpool.
Right.
The first movie. I can't remember his name
right now. Weird tooth that's twisted in his mouth.
While I'm talking, if you could look him up real quick. So there is a show that he was originally cast in, that the character that he was cast as was an Asian character. There was a lot of backlash on social media at the fact that he was cast in the role, but then he stepped back and said, okay, yeah, this particular role needs to go to someone else. He was my first choice as Freddie Mercury in the biopic of Queen and Freddie Mercury, because to me, he looks more like Freddie Mercury than Rami Malek did, who won an Oscar for his portrayal. The actor's name is someone who I cannot remember off the top of my head right now,
His name is Ed Skrein.
Ed Skrein. His name is Ed Skrein. Ed Skrein is a decent actress, decent actor. Like I said, he was in the original Game of Thrones. He was in the Transporter reboot. He's a decent actor. But again, there was a role that he was cast as where he stepped back from it because he ethnically did not meet the qualifications of the character. I mention that because I respect the integrity of the young lady who plays in the Acolyte for stepping back as Shuri because she recognizes that she does not embody the character. A prime example of that would be what's my girl's name from Star Trek? Who's coming to dinner? Wait, hold on the comments. What's the actress's name who was in the Star Trek reboot? Oh, Gamora, who plays Gamora.
Oh, Zoe Saldana.
Zoe Saldana was cast as Nina Simone in a movie. She should never have been cast in that role. And if you look at pictures of Zoe Saldana as Nina Simone, they have her basically in blackface. She should never have taken that role, right? Mad shout out to the young lady from Acolyte for recognizing that she should not have been Shuri. So more actors and actresses should have done that. Going back to the series, Acolyte, I know it's being bombed on social media or whatever as being boring,
It
but
is? I had no idea.
yeah, I'm actually enjoying it. I'm looking forward to what's coming next. I think that the producers and writers need to focus more on things that came before the Skywalker involvement in Star Wars because there's literally thousands of years of history of the
Literally.
Jedi and things of that nature that could and should be explored. But with
Yeah, I
that
mean, the only criticism I saw on social media was with regard to this character here, Yord, because of his hairstyle.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, that's a
Because
nonsense.
they're like, this the same hairstyle is used in video games and cartoons.
That's a nonsense.
It's a hairstyle people are.
I think it's
The internet can be very petty.
It's ridiculous. It's
A lot of
absolutely
people on the internet just hate things just to hate things.
yeah.
Like it's so easy to say I dislike that, I dislike that. But what you don't see on social media is what do you actually enjoy? You can hate on everything, but what do you actually those same people that say they hate everything, they never tell you what they actually enjoy. What do you actually read? What do you actually watch? They never tell you that part. They just tell you what they don't like because they're haters and hate tends to get more clicks for some reason.
Yep. But anyway,
Anyway.
look, guys, thank you guys for joining us once again on a Friday. Make sure that you pick up Akugan next Wednesday. Join us next Friday. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we will definitely see you next time. Thank you.
Yes, please hit the like button right now. Take a second to hit the like button. Share this video. If you're new to our channel, you've not subscribed to it, please subscribe to our channel. And we'll see you next week with Mayure Ayodele talk about Akugan Brutalized with Gods and hopefully the new Storm series he has going on. So next time.
See you later.
Mark, pleasure, man.
All right.
Black Comic Lords.
All right, later.
Gotcha.